What makes a perfect event a perfect event? I mean, there has to be multiple things that gives it the chemistry to make it a success, right? So when you go out and watch the finals at WFCT or any event, even at Tinter Battles, the chemistry that's on the floor at that moment when that's going down, when that's happening, that is what really is that drives other people to want to be a part of that, to get better at their craft. They want to be in that same arena. They want to be able to say that they made the final 10, they did this, they got into the finals. That's what drives an individual.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Born to Tint podcast here with Josh Miller, Ricky Miller, guest David Karle, and joined by the industry legend and tintertaining figure, the Texas Squeegee. We have some very interesting conversations here to tintertain the audience. This is going to be an interesting podcast. We are looking forward here to talking with everybody. We talked everything from business to legacy to a little bit of some politics. Join here, enjoy the show. This is the Texas Squeegee on Born to Tint podcast with the Miller brothers. Squeegee that.
When we were at WFCT, I was right next to the stage, and I had told Sarah, because this was her first time being on stage like that. And then I told Deb too, I'm like, yo, I'm here. Like, if you need me to be up there, I can do this. Like, because to me, it's not about me, dude. It's not a fucking ego thing. To me, it's about the fucking moment, and it's you guys. And like, it's the moment of presenting this that you guys are capturing with your phone that you'll remember forever. It's like, rather than saying, in first place, Ricky Miller, there's no excitement to that. Yeah. But like, in first place, wait till the crowd goes dead quiet. I can hear a fucking pin in the back.
Yeah.
No, we have the winner of the WFCT 2024.
It's like you won the three-legged race at school.
That's the one thing I forgot to put in the feedback, because we had to do the review to get pretty much, which I haven't even seen if I've got my score sheet back to see where I got knocked points. But I mean, auto, I know where I got knocked points. Like, I screwed up, my film lifted, like I left the ghost mark. Like, I knew where I lost the points that I could have got into the finals. But they're finally giving that feedback back to us now. Like, they're actually going to send us the score sheet with the sliding scale, and you'll see where you lost points, which I was very happy with. But you had to give constructive criticism, which I had plenty of other things to say too. I don't remember if I actually said that or not, because that was one thing I wanted to say. Is you could tell it was her first time up there, which I get. Like, being up on stage in general is already awkward. Like, I had a
shit, not for me, bro. I love that shit.
Oh, like,
pack the fucking house, 500,000 people.
Yeah, I forgot literally everything I wanted to say, like, except for the one thing I knew I wanted to like remind myself, because I always, like, the last time I went up, I always forgot to thank my dad. This time I was like, I gotta remember to thank my mom. Yeah, and like I remembered that. I said that. I forgot everything else. I didn't thank Solar Guard. I didn't thank like all the people that I helped like spawn Tint Wiz, like. All blank. But nothing. I walked out and say, I was like, I forgot to literally thank everybody, my wife, my kid, the company, everything. God damn it. And it's like, I was trying to, obviously I thought leaving that competition, walking away, looking at the finals windows, I was confident enough to know, like, I know I'm top 3. Like, I looked at the other marks in the windows. I saw where everyone was getting knocked. And I knew where my windows were too. So I was like, I know I'm at least top 3. Like, in my mind, I was at least top 2. I was pinning myself between the guy who took second. It was between me and him. I looked at his windows. His windows look clean too. And it's like, all right, so if I do win, this way, I'm trying to work that out in my head. But as soon as you hit that stage, like, from blank instantly, I remembered my mom, and then past that, forgot everybody else. I was like, yeah, it happens.
Adrenaline.
Oh, absolutely.
It would have been nice to have like an interview with them too.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, that's
you talk about, like, you know.
That's the point.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
Oh, they
like
did.
Challenges.
They do it afterwards.
On the stage, though.
Yeah, but the question is, where's that video scene? Like it's not
compilation that I think they put out.
Like, it's on YouTube, but it doesn't get seen.
And that's what I mean. And I mean, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying it's like that's where we can.
I was having the perspective that it was a show, but dude, I was like a freaking bull in a pen. Like, I was just like, I was kicking up dirt. My nostrils were flaring. I was foaming at the mouth. I'm like, come on, like this moment is special. Like, if somebody was better than me, put them on the stage. It's not an ego thing. Let's make the moment what it needs to be for the people that devoted their time and their skills. This is a highlight of their career. Like, I just.
And the
but
content,
it's okay, you know, like
and the content that comes off of it too.
Right.
I mean,
exactly.
And that's one thing that WSCT, I think they've obviously taken notice that they've lacked it, and they've definitely have gotten better with it, and they are getting better with it. But I think they're finally getting out of their way to open that up. Like even when it came to like
but they're still not taking advantage of it.
Well, look, I had to do a presentation, which it was funny. Like out of everyone in the company, I shouldn't have been the one doing the class. It was about social media. And like I started off with it, like my sister put the slideshow together. I looked it over. I probably should look it over a little bit more, but I'm definitely the type of person where it's like, put the information in front of me and I can go off that information. Like, cause like, I know it. Was starting to go through it, but I started off, I was like, when it comes down to it, technically I probably shouldn't be up here. It should be my sister or my brother. But in hindsight, actually, I'm probably the best person because I was the biggest critic of like, why are we doing this? Are we going to devote time to it? And like, I was 100% wrong. Yeah. And then just going through the numbers and showing them like this one clip was watched this many hours, viewed by this many people. Like, what would you pay to have that kind of outreach at any time? Like, and it's just put out the organic content, be consistent, rinse and repeat, go do it over. I mean, what Gary Vee said, like that was probably the best thing about the show was Gary Vee pretty much already straight out told us, like he was just confirming, just keep doing what you're doing. Make the content, put it out. When it pops, pay for an ad.
Yeah, pay, yeah.
And
support
do it again and again and again and just don't stop doing it. And it was like, all right, we're doing the right thing right now. Let's just keep doing it and see where it takes us. You know? I know you agree.
100%.
Yeah, I know.
1,000%.
Yeah, I know. He unfortunately didn't get to make the trip to the tin office.
Yeah, it'd have been nice to have been there and seen Gary Vee in person. But
yeah, but I didn't need to hear you in my ear every time.
Somebody was afraid of competition being there and kind of wanted to set the competition up.
Looks like we got to have a little battle of the Millers.
Yeah, that'll be
Millers
next
battle.
year in Reno. He wanted to not compete anymore. I said, no, you're giving me one more chance to beat your ass.
Sal's
We're competing against each other.
Sal's really trying to. He's pushing. Well, he's pushing for both of us to take over judging with him and Dustin, if I'm not mistaken.
I want to compete one more time where it's actually both of us competing against each other.
Well, and at that point, yes, I think I will jump into judging at WFCT because I still can go compete at Tinter Battles. I can still go compete at WFR. Like I still have those outlets, but I know at WFCT, as soon as you cross that threshold, you no longer can compete, which I thought it was like you had like a 2-year time frame where you had to like not judge for 2 years and they'll let you back in the pool. I ended up finding out not true at all. As soon as you dip your toe in judging in WFCT, you're now done competing.
See, here's where I would have a problem with that. I mean, that is a personal choice for you, right? Like if you want to move into that role, it's a personal choice. The problem with that is our industry has stars, whether or not you want to recognize that or not. It has people that are seen as, people admire you. They look up to you. They, want to be you essentially. You know what I mean? Like you can't help that. That's just what happens when you're that good. So it's essentially like I guess you would say the double edge of that sword, like let's play devil's advocate for a second. You're taking away talent from the actual competition and hurting the competition because people will come and watch you tint. So if you move into a judge's role, you basically have just taken yourself out of the limelight and you've actually hurt it. It would be like right now, I'll give you an example. Patrick Mahomes decides he wants to be an NFL official.
Do not tell this guy he's like Patrick Mahomes.
No, I'm just saying, I'm using an example. It doesn't matter. Like any skill quarterback, anyone in that is, okay, so let's put yourself in the top 10 players in the NFL. That one player, Chris Jones, I don't care who it is, Josh Allen, whatever, it doesn't matter. All of a sudden he says, I'm quitting and I'm going to be an NFL official. What? You're hurting the product. I mean, just think about it from that aspect.
Oh, no, believe me.
So if you have the back and the skill to still do it, I would recommend that you do it until you know for sure that you can't keep up with the young blokes. And then you move into the new role and then you make sure it's done right. But I'm saying where you're at right now, and again, it's a feeling thing for you. I don't tell anyone that. I mean, wouldn't you agree to that?
I don't know. I think it's up to Ricky Miller, and that's what makes the story interesting because you have like Habib, total killer, undefeated, guy retired. Now there's a conversation. It's like, if he would have kept going, like how many more could he have racked up? Like there's some people that are like, damn, I wanted to see, as a fan, I wanted to see what more could he have done? How far could he have gone? Like, like a John Jones, like that, that's another career, like greatest fighter of all time, but he had some shenanigans and stuff like that. If he wanted to go into judging, it'd be like, damn, but then that also opens up a possibility for I don't know if the rules, but for a comeback. You can't have a great comeback if you never step off the stage. So
if anything, ditch that rule. At least put a grace period if you're ever going to come back.
So if you judge one time, you can't ever compete?
Nope.
As of right now, but they can always change their rules.
It's not like a change, because that doesn't make any sense.
Well, that's where I'm giving them kudos in the fact that actually I think they're starting to look at those situations and actually make the appropriate changes, or at least have the conversations, because they're going by guidelines and rules that were set before they got there and running, especially with Sarah, because she just stepped into that role. Like I wasn't able to have him record my entire session of me talking to people. Like we wanted to record the whole session. And they told us like, you can record, get your clips, but we can't have you record the whole thing. And I'm like, why? He's like, it's a rule we have in place already. We're already holding everyone to it. So we're just kind of holding to that this year.
They're gonna.
But
I'm telling you, they're gonna change.
What I was getting back from what she was telling me is just like pretty much wait till next year where those conversations are happening.
Yeah.
We're gonna make that go away because we see which way all this is going. We want the content to be out there.
If they want more people to show up next year, they should have every single thing they're doing, what you guys did with Tinter Battles, being put out everywhere you possibly can to get more interest on the industry and on that event. Like not putting all of that out because you're afraid people are going to get the info that they would have got if they came. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me.
You know, in their defense, we had a great conversation with Deb, and we talked a little bit in depth about some of the show things. And you know, I recognize that a lot of the policies that are in place were probably because of situations that happened, but sometimes they don't apply anymore. And one of the things I was telling Deb was like, you're gonna have things go sideways. Not everybody's gonna be happy. Are we live?
Yeah.
Can we cuss?
Yeah.
Tough shit. Like. If people, you're not going to satisfy everybody 100% of the time, but if the people that sometimes the one person that complains has a louder voice because they're the ones who are being a Karen about it, so then you're like, oh, I think I got to build a policy. It's like, no, that person's just being a Karen. Like, so they're going to get better about it because they're definitely been more open and receptive to ideas and improvements of the show because you have to evolve. If you're not evolving, you're moving backwards, and I think they're recognizing that.
Oh, seeing Tinter Battles, I think her going to Tinter Battles was a very good choice on her end to see that environment and see how see how you guys did it. Like I think that was very smart of her to do that. And then also obviously seeing WFR standing theirs up. I know they're going through their growing pains too, but I think this last year was the first year I was exposed to it, and like. As long as Cash and Rick keep doing what they're doing, I love the fact that they have it in March. Hopefully, like the scheduling is being broken up to where I don't know when the next Tinter Battle is necessarily going to be, but being able to actually have some space between these competitions makes all the sense in the world. I know it's hard to do when it comes down to doing anything in the summer is going to shortchange that competition because a lot of people, it's like this is the time where I make money.
Right. Yeah,
so
it's a seasonal industry.
So, but having to where at least there is some kind of break in between them, though, it allows everyone to go to all of them because they all have their different feel. Because WFR was definitely like completely different, but also very similar to WFCT. Like the competition level, it was 100% there, but the transparency of like you walked up to your door after your competition, your score was written on the door.
Yeah.
They didn't put any extra marks on the door. Like I ended up finding out after WFCT talking to Sal, he was like, I was like, man, you guys really went after my windows. And he was like, no, I knew you was going to win. He's like, I went after both your windows afterwards. Like, man, I don't want this guy to get cocky. And he just circled a bunch of shit all over my windows. Cause there was stuff I got circled. I was like, yeah, I know that was there. Like I knew I was getting a ding for that. And there was a bunch of other circles. I'm like, I guess maybe there's something. I don't know. But like he did it so consistently with everybody. He really put everyone on their toes. Cause like, getting into the finals, I was very weary of like if I was going to get in. I walked away from the window confident. I walked up to it like, okay, I guess we'll see what happens. We'll see how I was like, as long as the next two heats don't crush the first two heats, I think I'll get in. And then in the finals, I walked away from my top window thinking like I knew my one corner was crinkled and I had a little dirt on the top of it, but my bottom window came out like so much better than my first round. And I was like, dude, my bottom one was awesome. And then I got back to it and looked at it. And like, he has the video of me walking up to it. And you can see me kind of deflate a bit. And I'm just like, well, I thought I did good, but.
That's why you can't walk away. Just listen to yourself right now. You have so much passion involved in it. Like you're sitting there living in the moment of what that is. And you want to go, I want to step back. That is the biggest bullshit I've heard in my life. You're lying to yourself right now.
You sound like Eric right now.
No, I'm just being honest with you.
Eric has looked at me. He's like, you need to keep competing until you cannot tint no more. Do not stop. He's like, don't you dare judge. He's pushing just as hard as him when it comes to don't you dare stop competing.
I mean, just think about it from a different okay. If you want to have an impact on the industry and the way the rules are doing, good, sit back and help write the rules, right? But don't take yourself and accidentally put yourself into a situation in case the rules can't change. Don't put yourself into a situation where like all of a sudden you get the itch and you're ready to go. And then all of a sudden you're like, you can't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I get the because I'm kind of in the same boat that I don't know how much longer I'm going to compete because we're not installing as much anymore day to day anyways. And our biggest thing, and both of us have said it, is kind of like what you brought up, Khabib. Look at him now coaching his guys.
Yeah.
And they're all
Training a
raising
bunch
to
of
the top of the UFC. So like, I think a bigger priority for us at this point is like this next year's going to be in Reno. We're going to bring the whole shop. It's like, I want our guys that we've been training to make the finals or win, you know, like that's more important to me at this point. And I know he feels the same way.
Yeah.
So I definitely want to compete at least one more time. And I don't know how many people are going there to see us. I know you're trying to like,
No, I'm being honest. Like, well,
there's a lot of skilled installers there. And
Yeah.
I don't think you realize that. I mean, you have to look at it in a whole. Like, it's not about one individual person. It's about the personalities that all come to the table, right? Like, what makes a perfect event? I mean, if in any fight or any there has to be multiple things that gives it the chemistry to make it a success, right? So when you go out and watch the finals at WFCT or whatever the case may be, or any event, even at Tinter Battles, whatever, it doesn't matter. The chemistry that's on the floor at that moment when that's going down, when that's happening, that is what really is that drives other people to want to be a part of that, to get better at their craft or whatever the case may be. They want to be in that same arena. They want to be able to say that they made the final 10, they did this, they got into the finals. That's what drives an individual to want to be there. So if you were to tell me right now that if you stop doing it, the quality stays the same, well, then that's a whole different conversation. But if you're telling me you're going to step back and the quality's not going to be the same, well, then, I mean, think about what you're saying. You know what I mean? Like, you're setting a standard, right? We had a great conversation at WFCT about like a pro division in a division that's like Division A, like minor leagues, right?
Yep.
So it gives people a chance. And once they compete, like there's a whole bunch of, I mean, you go down a rabbit hole with this 500 time. You can say 5 million
That was
things.
one of the things I loved about Tinter Battles is like anybody there can compete in anything. And like you kind of giving anybody a chance. And then you end up with the finals. Yeah. It ends up being the
top performers.
The top performers.
Yeah.
But that's one thing I kind of regret about Tinter Battles, and I'm excited for the next one whenever it is.
They're trying to press anything.
Like I go back and I like watch the content of like when we competed, and like I kind of more was still almost treating it like WFCT, and I wish I would have like been more into it. Like when we got introduced to come out, I just like walked out and was like, you know, like some people came out and played into it and like had fun with it.
Yeah.
Like next time I'm definitely gonna have more fun with it.
Should have brought your
Like,
medal.
a lot more fun with it and kind of actually try to like make it more entertaining.
It's about you. That's what you need to understand.
It's like I wasn't thinking that way until I started watching the content of it afterwards. I'm like, oh yeah, I was just kind of I was definitely like timid and
pro fighters get their own room.
Hey, I had one cool moment that was with me like passing Shady, but that was just unintentional. Like that ended up being like a cool moment that just kind of happened. But like I wasn't thinking of it that way as it was happening. And now I'm like excited to go back to it again for that reason. It's like, okay, let's treat this a little bit more like WWE. Like let's actually like
UFC, WWE.
Well, even like
whatever you make it, man.
Yeah, but I'm saying like me and him should be getting into it, like because like that's what we're really doing. If we're tinting together, like we're gonna have disagreements and like
absolutely. Well, like even like the fact, like I think when him and Shady went, I think only one person had a torch, other person had a heat gun, and they like said, "Hey, let's both do heat guns." And like I went against Brian Cohen, and he had a torch, and like he doesn't usually use a torch; he uses a heat gun. But he understood like this is speed when it comes out. I'm gonna take the risk of a torch. I went the opposite route and went, I want heat gun. But I didn't even think about the fact to ask him like, hey, do you want to do torch versus torch? Or are we going to be men and use heat guns? And like and have that kind of like and play into it that way. Like I completely lost the opportunity to sit there and break his balls, like and really get into it. Like I think that's what necessarily you're talking about.
Yeah,
it's like I missed that opportunity, but now I see it where like 100% when we go back, we do that again. If we're doing heat shrink battles again, I will definitely probably antagonize whoever I get matched up against. I'm going to antagonize them. And if they want to do torch, get out of my comfort zone and throw a torch around. I know how to throw a torch around. I understand the concept of shrinking film. It's like, I know what risk I'm taking, but I also know how much faster it's going to make me too. Yep. If you move, you can get it done like that. That's always the name of the game. You want the hottest heat gun so you can shrink faster, so you have a better time. Like throwing a torch on there, like there's a reason why Fernando can shrink the living hell out of a back window with his torch. Like that dude is using that tool constantly. He knows how to use it almost perfectly. Same with Elu. Same, they use
Well,
that.
I want to play with his new attachment for the torch.
That
That
thing
ends up
looks like
making the tip of it looking like a heat gun. That thing looks cool. I want to play
shrink
with
some
that.
windows and do some spot welding.
I want to play with that.
And guys
That
like
looks
him, his dedication to getting so good at it. I mean, you have to admit, it's like he's taking it to the next level, like treating it. It's what we want you to treat it like a sport. I mean,
I mean, it is. It's a showcase of skill, which is why like the rules are very minimal. Like we like to allow for freedom of technique, diversifying of strategies, methods. Like let put the rule, have minimal rules, so that there's a structure to it, and then other than that, let it up to the creative of the individual. Just like you said, what I love about the heat shrink battles is that you can bring a torch and it has certain advantages, but it has its disadvantages. And it's like, do you go for the riskier route or do you go for the safer route? And that's what creates the interesting storyline between competitor A versus competitor B. And that was pretty cool. Like, there were some competitors that were like, let's just stick to heat gun versus heat gun. Yeah. I'm not going to impose on that at all. If that's what you guys want to do, let's tell the story. And boom, 3, 2, 1, let's shrink,
Well, how do we get past those? Someone be able to reach across the whole goddamn windshield.
That's genetics, bro. That's
So it's funny. Like watching him shrink a windshield, I'm like, well, you can reach into the other corner. Yeah, that makes sense.
It's a height
advantage. Dude, hey, to each his own. And then
that's
you
a
got
huge
Fernando
advantage on flat glass too. There's guys that don't have to use the step stool to reach that window. They're just tinting it.
Well, Caleb.
Yeah.
Caleb.
Caleb,
I remember seeing him compete in flat glass for the first time in 2015. At least the first time I noticed him competing in flat glass. And I'm watching him stand and almost stare at the top of the window. I'm like, this is bullshit, man. What the hell? Like he's getting on top of the step stool. He's looking down on his frame. I'm like, whatever, man. Nonsense.
Yeah.
But hey, you take advantage of what you can take advantage of.
I think
Find
some
the
of
gray
the concepts and like the heat shrink battles is like, I say it in the live broadcast, but I mean, what makes that really an interesting event is people just look at it as go faster than the other guy. Really, you can lose it in 2 ways.
Oh, I love it. So in commentary, when we do commentary, he started coming out with that one time, and I was like, and I asked him, what do you mean there's only one way to win, but 2 ways to lose? And he goes, well, you can lose by getting beat by the other person, or you can like damage the film and get disqualified.
I won 2 rounds by people damaging their film by me going slow enough to let them have enough time to damage their film with a torch. And it's like, that's the only reason I moved on to as far as I made it.
Apply pressure because they don't know. So instinctively, you're back there going as fast as you can, and that's not always going to be the winner of that event.
Like Brian Cohen, he's one of my favorite shrinkers to watch, because I remember watching him in Tinter Battles 2023, and I had come up with this slogan for him. Every time I saw him, is like, if you blink, you'll miss the shrink, because this guy was lightning fast on the torch. And then I saw him come back for 2024 doing the Tesla Model 3 windshields, and I watched the content back, and he eliminated himself. Like he didn't get beat other than himself, and that's what makes it interesting, because
it was 14 seconds, I think. Wasn't it something crazy?
I don't know. He was sorry. I mean, it was like he was like melting the film on the glass, and then just small kink, and that got him out. And
I wish I had the time. It was an unrealistic time for a windshield, and then he burned it. Yeah. Like it was literally like, and it wasn't even. I don't even think he even noticed that he burned it until after he was done. Like it film just.
Oh, that's like the squeegee battle. People squeeging the windows and them done, and then all of a sudden looking up, and then you see them look up and they see the running water, and they're like,
that was Marcus. Is that there was that dude? Squeegee Battles was by far dwarfed every other competition that's ever existed in terms of online viewership. Dwarfed it. And then there was one round where Marcus Quintana was like squeegeeing.
What's that video at now? Because last time I saw when it was really popped, it was at like 73, 74 million. And like at that time, I think the video that you put up of me was at like, I think 12 or 14 million. Now it's up to like, I think 24, 25 million. It's like, I can only imagine what his video is at now. Like how those 2 videos took off.
Yeah.
I was like, holy shit, this is crazy.
It's gratifying. It's gratifying to watch. It's fun to watch.
A lot of strategy behind it too. I mean, like it's production. This is why I say Tinter Battles is I mean, things exist, and there's a value for different alternatives, and that's good. It's just, you can't have a rare steak that only some people like medium well, other people like fish, and you got to have a variety. But with Tinter Battles, it's one of a kind. It's all original competitions. The Squeegee Battles was one in particular that whenever I was coming up with the concept for it was that I wanted
this cat out of the bag, but the ultimate headline that I wanted to get was the window tinter versus the window cleaner.
Yeah.
You know, there's an audience that connects with Tinter Battles that we have a presence with. We don't have a presence with the window cleaning associations or those guys. But I knew that if I created a piece of content that if I showed it to you, you're like, oh, that's a window tinter. But that same piece of content I showed it to a window cleaner, you're like, oh, those guys are slow. Because those guys are fast, by the way. They're fast as shit.
And just to put this on record too, I fought that event. Like, I'm gonna let you guys know, like, to say it now, like, I could not wrap my mind around it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and you know, you can continue on. I didn't mean to hijack. I just say, like, but that's the beauty of working with somebody that's sometimes the opposite of you. Like, he saw the vision, he pushed back, and went through with it, and it turned out to be the best event. So you know what I mean? Just, you don't know, you know what I mean? And and thanks for pushing back on that event against me, because he kept trying to explain it to me, and I was just like, I don't see how you just got to trust me. You got to trust me. So
yeah,
I guess we're in the same pocket on that trust thing. He trusts things that I tell him, and I trust things he tells me, and we push back. But I never saw that event doing what it's done. Just so you know. No, you know what I mean?
Dude, it was a first competition. Like, what was tricky with Tinter Battles 24 was like, it was a pivot from 2023. Man, for the people that didn't go to 23, it's like that lives on as, in my opinion, the greatest show this industry has ever seen. There was everything involved in it. Sports style competition. There was theatrics. There was skits that we performed on stage. There was a game show called Tintertainment that I came up with, which is like a family feud spin on window tinting information. Like, there was that kind of
good though.
Yeah, there was that kind of stuff. But Tinter Battles 24 went more towards like live stream production, because, you know, I saw that the value of going, you know, having deep reach, and I mean, not only just for the platform, but for everybody involved. It's you know, if you're the one that's getting seen, you're getting tons of millions of views, and you guys did a great job of taking advantage of that video going viral and being present in the comments, plugging in the pod, because I'm like, that's how you do, or one of the effective ways you do marketing in 2024 and beyond. It's like, it's engaging with people and like seeing, okay, you were the star of that video that's popping, be involved in the comment sections, because then you're going to increase your ROI, your awareness, or whatever your objectives are going to be. But that competition, that event, like, it was, with the exception of heat shrink battles, every other competition was a new concept, every single one of them. And the tricky thing is that you can't rehearse these things.
Nope.
Like, the first take is when you guys were there and the cameras were rolling. So I can't tell you how many hours I spent trying to simulate it. And I'm like, okay, what about if this happens? Okay, then I got to have a rule for that. What about if that happens? And there's only so far you can imagine go down rabbit holes until it's there. And it was Squeegee Battles when we first started. When we first started off, I was internally, like, I was a little terrified, you know, because we're doing live stream production online, and plus coordinating these guys, and now we're running a new competition that's never been done before. So you know, we ran a couple rounds. We were going through them pretty quick, and in my head, I'm always thinking from the viewer's perspective. Man, are they enjoying themselves? Are the competitors, do they find it as, like, you know, fun? Like, you know, that's, and Marco was filming, and he turns around and he goes like, this is so much fun. And when he told me that thing, it was just kind of like that little break where I was like, God, I think this is going to be all right. And then I just started rolling into it. And Flat Glass Battles was after that. When did you start doing the interviews?
You know, it was
it heat shrink? It was heat shrink battles, wasn't it?
Yeah, because the time it was taking to get each, you know, the competitors onto each car. We were having so much dead time. And like, in the world of like entertainment, the worst thing you want to have on a live stream or anything is
you lose an audience, you lose their attention. Yep. And when we started doing, like, so the branded Teslas was a good idea in terms of the Tesla, because they were wrapped, they were branded, it gave a look. The kind of the trick to that we didn't truly anticipate, at least I didn't necessarily, should have thought it through a little bit better, was how long is it going to realistically take for someone to shrink a Tesla windshield? Yep. And then you time that and be like, how much is each round going to take? Then you add your breaks in between, and you're like, how long are we going to be here for? And the first couple of minutes, I was like, holy crap, this is going to be a long conversation.
We're having secret conversations like, you know,
yeah, we were like in the background just trying to, like, hey, how can we speed this up? What do we got to prep, or like moving? You know, now we're back to, like, we're tapping into us being window tinters at an automotive shop. We got waiters in the lobby. There's 4 cars that need to get done, and you're trying to strategize what's the way to go about it.
So the you giving commentary kind of happened as it was going, because
it was a solution.
I didn't notice that like it. I didn't notice that it just started at some point.
There was no
once
plan
it was
on that.
happening, it was like one of my favorite parts of the whole show.
There was no plan on that.
That's cool.
That was basically like I don't know how to tell you what clicked. I just looked at him and said,
I mean, I think we both have a pretty good understanding of like showbiz and entertainment. And so like, you know, when he was talking about dead spots, I'm just aware of the same thing too. That's I was trying to close the gap of the dead spot. He found a solution to fill the gap with something else that was entertaining and valuable. And that was taking the winners of the rounds and getting their thoughts and stuff like that. So you get to know the competitors themselves and their raw emotion as they're coming out of this battle. So.
Drawing in
and
the
I tell
audience.
you, I got to have a talk with everybody because I have never in my life had to chase so many people's mouth with a microphone. I mean, they're like the whole time they're trying to talk because their adrenaline is going. But I do want to tell you a story of like how I really fell in love with what we do, and it kind of hit me when I was coming to Amelia Island. I flew into Charlotte, and was going to load the plane, and the pilot's chair broke. Now I had to be there that night. He needed my help. I called you and told you that my flight was delayed, and I was so pissed. Sybil went up to the hotel. They gave us a free hotel. That's how jacked up this was. There's no way we're getting there. So I'm stuck in Charlotte. So I go. I've probably told you this story, but when people need you, you know how you get upset. You're not there for them. You know what I mean? You get like, it's just, you know, if you care about something. So it put me on a whole nother level. So I go down to the bar, and Sybil's like, "You want me to go with you?" I said, "No, I need alone time. I'm pissed. I don't want to say something reactive." You know what I mean? We all have our moments. So I go down to the bar, and I'm sitting there, and I'm just looking at the TV, and there's like, it was some stupid television show. Like, I don't know. I don't care. It doesn't matter. I asked the bartender, I was like, "Hey, can you change the channel?" She's like, "What do you want?" I was like, "I don't care. Just an ESPN, some sports or something." So I'm sitting there and watching the television, and all of a sudden pops up, it's WTA. Do you know what that is?
The tag.
World Tag Association was on ESPN2. And then it clicked. I needed to miss that flight to see how much ceiling what we're doing really has. We have a lot of ceiling here. If the World Tag Association is on ESPN2, I am sorry. What we're doing is more inventive, more creative, funner, more of a skill set, and the ceiling is massive compared to me chasing you over and touching you by the door. So that opened my eyes. I'm not saying those guys aren't skilled because they jump through like all kinds of crazy stuff.
Oh, cornhole even too.
I met a
professional
dude,
cornholes on
I met a dude
ESPN
through
too.
the V-Friends community who's like one of the top guys. And I didn't know it was a thing at the point until I met him. I met him at VCon 1, and I've been following him ever since. And he's like he's typically he's like one of the top ranked guys. And he was in the military. His fiance is currently still active duty military. And it's like, that's what made me first start watching that. And then we talked about it at Tinter Battles, and I was like, yeah, like that opened my eyes to how big this could be too. Is like
totally.
People are watching tag on ESPN.
Yeah.
And you're looking for something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's something for everybody out there.
So I just wanted to tell that story. I don't know if I ever told you that or not. I was so pissed off that night. Like that's a hard reflection. But I needed to see that. Like, it's almost like that happened for a reason, for me to slow down, reassess what we're doing, and get behind it. And all of those things that have happened led for me to probably spring into action in the last one, to start doing commentation and to start interviewing people, because this was happening. It happens in every sporting event. I mean, I'm a huge sports guy.
Yep.
So I've been, I thank you for all those years of watching sports. That's just really kind of how it happened is. And that's what I used for like the influence to just jump in there. I mean, I always have a free range. Anytime I want to do anything microphone wise, I mean, I have free range, but to organize it to that point, that was, I guess it's that was not planned. I mean, there were things that obviously, just like anytime you do anything for the first time, there are things that they go sideways and you figure them out. But like it's like in a company, like your policy structure happens a lot of times because of incidents that happen, and then you learn from them, and you become more intentional and calculated in how you move forward. And so that was one of those things where I was like, why didn't we think of this earlier? But good that we have it now, and it's kind of great that it fell into place that way, because it did add a whole. I've gotten a lot of comments from that was something that added a different element to the competition flow. And dude, ultimately, like at the end of the day, none of it means anything without the competitors. Like if we had the world's most boring competitor, there's only so much I can do as a commentator, or he can do as an interviewer, or we can dress up the space. But if the stars themselves, I've always thought that, like, I've been of the belief that, our industry doesn't have any mainstream shows because there hasn't been, in my opinion, the right creative producer
to capture the angle in the proper way where the average Joe can understand what it is that we do. And so coming in, from that perspective, I think competitions are in essence the same way. It's like we tell a story when we put on these events, but if it's Ricky Miller from Nevada and that's all it is, then that's not as exciting versus Ricky Miller, former champion of WFCT, former finalist WFR, here with his brother Josh Miller in the audience, here competing, redeeming himself, wants to win triple threat this year. Like if there's more of that, if there's a storyline behind it, now there's like this build-up. Now I care about Ricky Miller. Like, damn, look at this guy, sounds special. Like that's in my opinion, the importance of having like the right commentator that knows these people, that understands. Like whenever I do commentary and I talk about drop roll, I always try to define every terminology because we understand what drop roll is, bottom loading is, heat shrinking, wet shrinking, pull shrinking. Average Joe's not going to understand that. But if you break it down in a way where it's like, wow, that competitor is utilizing a torch. Now, one of the advantages is the speed. However, the disadvantages is more likely to damage the film, leading a disqualification and letting the other, it's like now you're telling context on top of the educational part of like, okay, there's a terminology. Here's the definition of it.
And to follow up on that, I mean, think about what that does. So we fish in our own pond, right? But by taking that same content and teaching what we're doing, then what does it do? It throws that content into the ocean.
Yep.
And now you're educating people that start watching it. I have had people walk up into my shop that have seen that video, or I haven't even playing at the shop, but I've had people literally go, I have seen that on television, and they understand more about window film because of the way that we did that. Then so it's turned into an educational thing for the common consumer to absorb. And that's how I know we have something. You know what I mean? I can't not feel that way. You know what I mean? Like,
dude, it's the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life, but the most rewarding too at the end of it, because we had that little hidden podcast we did at the end. That to me was like that's where I got my nourishment. I mean, having that time with you guys at the end. But then like, watching back and seeing the moments like Chuck Cochran, who was one of my favorite installers of all time. He won Tinter Battles 2022 with Jamie Nance. 2023, he was like, in third place for the automotive. Then he's coming back he came back in 24, but I didn't even know he had a son. And I saw a name, I was like, Cameron Cochran. I was like, Cochran's, that wasn't to me like a common name. So then I get word that this is Chuck's son. I was like, oh, snap. Like, all right, now there's a story there. And obviously I bring it up in the commentary. I'm like,
I was in the same boat. I didn't know he had a son. And then they're competing together and meeting him. Was like, oh, this is awesome.
He's got another son. I met his other son the other day. He shipped some stuff to our shop because he has a booth at SEMA. I wish I met him.
Chuck?
Yeah.
Is it the truck?
The defense lock?
Something like that.
Yeah. So he hit me up a couple weeks ago. I said, hey, is it okay if I send some stuff to your shop, just shipping wise? We're setting up a booth. Crazy is okay. Like there's a corner to set stuff. I'm like, yeah, I don't care. Absolutely. Yeah. So he sent a bunch of stuff here. So he came and picked it up. When he came and picked it up, like I met Cameron, and then all of a sudden he walked in with his wife, and then he's like, oh, it's my other son. I'm like, oh, I have not met you. I didn't know you had two sons. But yeah, no, it's that competition was how everybody was engaged with it, and then like how it was also set up too. How the competition started. Like you got there in the morning, and then you never had the chance to leave just because you were engaged the entire time.
Even having lunch provided there for everybody, that was so smart.
Yeah.
Because everybody disappears to go eat at all these other events. And like that, I thought was brilliant. Like it was every meal too, wasn't it? It was like
breakfast, lunch, dinner.
Yeah. So there was no reason to leave. So it's just stay here
and then there
all
was
day
so
long.
much entertainment at all times. It's either you were competing or you're watching other people compete just because it was that entertaining. Like you're getting sucked into it. And also as a competitor, watching your other competitors go, they might do something that's going to help you. Yeah. I mean, that's one of the big reasons why I enjoy competing.
The spin of the frames at the end. What was it? Cochran was the first one to spin.
Yeah. Dude,
then all of a sudden it was used by people in the later rounds. Yeah. It's like, oh, you can spin the whole frame around. Yep. Like, oh, that's genius.
Yep. That's the part that doing.
Can't think that out.
To me, and you guys tell me if it's the same with you guys, but like me watching and commentating on this, it puts me in the present moment. I forget that the rest of the world exists. And then moments like those, when I saw Chuck doing it, I'm like, That's why he's the badass that he is.
Yep.
Because nobody knew to encounter these hanging windows. This guy thought on the spot, figured out, he knew that these things have like drain holes on them, turns it over. You see all this water running down. And to me, I was just like, you smart.
Crack the code.
Smart.
That was so good. And then even the way that, like, I think that initially the finals was going to be just
overall
just
winner
whoever won, and then all of a sudden it became a head-to-head final.
Yeah.
Like, if that was a pivot,
Yeah.
that was the coolest pivot ever, because that final head-to-head match had to happen. Like, if you do that competition again, it should just be structured to be that way, because that was the most exciting part of the whole night.
Yeah.
Like, that was such an awesome twist that just made it that much better.
Yeah.
Like,
As soon as
the energy in that room of them both getting done down to the wire, using Chuck's spin, shaking the water out of the window. Like, there were so many things used from previous rounds in that round. And then the head to head and the whole crowd cheering. That was like definitely had to be the finale. It was perfect.
Yeah, no, it's that pivot at the end of that made all the sense in the world to me, because I remember you coming over and like asking, because you came over and talked to all the finalists, said, hey, this is what we're going to do. And I was like, yeah, that makes actually the most sense in the world, because just like it was one of those things you bumped into was, all right, so the first heat got done. Well, the second heat's got to clean their windows. And like like, there was glue left, and it's like actually get a real good clean on it. We got more than that 60 seconds. So technically we had that edge. And it really backfired on me, because I was able to really take advantage of that. In my eyes, I made a final squeegee and wipe on one side of my window. I'm like, I'm not doing that again. I want to save time. I got to put 4 panels up right now. And like, well, it was 15 minutes, if I'm not mistaken. Like, so it's like, I was just going to peel and stick, because if I'm on a big commercial job where there isn't a lot going on, I'll go through and prep an entire section. And then I go back through and I start hanging film, especially if it's say a cold day, film slipping to where I'm tacking, I'm drying my edge, I'm moving on to my next one. I'm not going to sit there and fight to keep squeegeeing. I'm just going to let it sit for a second. And then I'm going to go back, re-wet, and finish off my window and start an assembly line. So it's like I went straight into it. I peeled and stuck. And that completely backfired on me, because that side of the glass, I had specks throughout the entire window, because the 2-minute buffer from me squeegeeing it to us then being announced and then, all right, start, it got dust on it. I should have squeegeed my damn window. So it backfired on me. But it made sense, though, because like the first heat, it was like pretty much inspect your glass and get gone, start doing your thing. So to me, it instantly evened out the competition. Like, no, that makes the most sense. You take the best from both heats, let them go at it. This is going to be even more entertaining than I thought it was going to be. Let's go. This is going to be fun. And that last round was awesome. That last round was fun. Watching those two go back and forth, and also having the engagement from the crowd too. Letting the crowd get into it, let them know like, hey, this is where they're at. This is what's happening. Give them the kind of the concept, because all you're doing right then, and when you're tinting, is you're just focusing on what you're doing. You're not really paying attention to what's going on. But then you hear that little snippet of information like, hey, they're on this window. You got time to do this. Like, no, you should have that coaching almost ability. I love that aspect too, because any other competitions, as soon as you step, at least at WCT, I know for certainty, you talk to anyone over the rail, you're DQ'd instantly. There is no talking. So it's like, I loved all the different aspects of the competition, because I like that aspect, because then everything is on you. You have to make sure that you're doing everything, you're remembering everything. No one can kind of help you a little bit. But then also to be able to engage with the crowd while you're competing, that adds a whole new level to it. Guys. A whole new level. I thoroughly enjoyed
that format matured right in front of our eyes. Like, it just matured itself. I mean, we had our challenges, but I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, I'm very confident in the product that was put out there. You know, it was it's challenging, but you know, that's what makes it a raw event, right? Like, you know, you can only, again, like he said, you can only plan for so many things to happen, and then all of a sudden you get out of left field the one thing that you didn't think could happen, and then you just have to man up and
figure it out from there.
And
then, like, you know, that's kind of how the thing got chiseled along the way. It's like, you can't chisel a statue without smacking it sometimes, you know, like things have to get, you know, you got to be a little rough with this statue, and then you got the shape, and you're like, all right, I think this is going to work for everybody.
And I think I speak for both of us when I say this. I mean, I'll work harder for this event tomorrow than I did yesterday. And that'll continue to go on, like, every time we do it. Like, we have so many things internally that we want to, personally, it's really a personal challenge to become better at for the event, for the product of you guys to compete. It's not, again, at the end of the day, it's not for him, for me, it's not about us, like, at all. Like, we just want to step back and let people enjoy their moment. So it's really fun to be a part of. I mean, you competed now, you know, it's really fun to be a part of. But for us, like it's a different responsibility. It's about how do we, you know, make you the star, not us. Like we just want to step back and let you enjoy your moment and give it the excitement that it is. But that's for me. I mean, that's been the fun of every single one. Like we've grown from every one so much. We've learned so much from like the, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, you know, that we've learned, that we've applied things we learned from the first one to the fourth one, the second one to the third. I mean, so the progression for us is it's very volatile, and we don't have a real limit except for working on the production value and making it better and better every time.
I would say I would agree with that too. Is that like the way that we highlight, you know, Dana White. I love when I hear him talk about the business of UFC, because, you know, he talks about the fight itself, and like inside the octagon, the fight is just a fight. You could have that exact same fight in the backyard and it's still two guys going at it. But, you know, them having it in an octagon with the cameras, with the entrances, with the lights, with the production, with the promos, that's what gives it that special. And like that's the you know, that's like what I love doing of it is the show business aspect of like these guys are superstars, and it's like, yeah, that's what they are, and that's how we're going to treat them, and we're going to respect them for their career and the contributions they've had to an industry that doesn't get a lot of recognition outside of our own little bubble, you know. And so, you know, if that's a way that we can bring in a different level of attention rather than just constantly promoting 99% UV rejection type of stuff, like so be it. You know what I mean? Because now that elevates the career itself, not necessarily the product. And that's what I think, like, one of the most special things about what we do is it's not necessarily just plugging in the product of what we sell. It's the individual behind the squeegee as well. Like, this is not I don't really see this anymore in our industry, but you used to mention it a lot, like that reputation of the window tinter being like the drug addict, like, you know, like kind of like if you're a window tinter, it's kind of looked down on as a career. You're like, that's a real job.
Sadly enough, you know what I'm talking about.
Absolutely.
I haven't run into that as much anymore. I mean, when I was younger, I would, you know, like I would have people that would tell me, I was like, hey, well, so what do you do? I was like, I'm a window tinter. I was like, oh, what are you eventually going to do?
Right. What are you gonna do after you tint all the glass? Like, what do you mean?
Yeah. So I think this elevates it in a way, and also one of the things that doesn't get talked about, another reason why I wanted to keep rules like really simple, was because of this diversification of skill sets, and things evolve over time. And if you have really strict rules, then as something evolves, you're not going to stay with the times because your rules don't allow that to be brought in. And I want people to see somebody do something and get curious, and then they come up to you afterwards and say, like, hey, I noticed you were doing you know this, the back roll technique. When we posted it on social media, how many people thought he's installing it backwards?
Oh, it got to a point where I made that simple little video for Instagram, and like I started sharing that link, because I was like, when that video started taking off, like first you texted me, you're like, I forget the text, like you're a superstar or something like that. It was at like 500,000, and then as it kept growing and growing, at that time we had just hired on Ryan Pineda to be our business mentor. And like, so I texted him and said, hey, and it was like on a Saturday too. So I wasn't even going to text him, because on the weekend, I'm not trying to bug him. And like, even though he's told me anytime, any question, don't hesitate to ask me anything. So he had texted me about something about one of his personal vehicles. I was like, well, you're bringing up business to me. I'm going to bring it up to you. All right. I didn't want to bug you with this over the weekend, but we had a video that we're tagged in that has, technically it's going viral right now. It's, I think it was at like 2 million or it was like 1.5 or 2 million at the time. Like, should I be doing anything? Because I know there's something should be being done right now. I know that for a certainty. And he's like, dude, just engage. Yeah. Because the biggest thing is just engage. Go into the comments, engage with the comments, drive everything back to your pages. That's where, like, when I was texting you, like, hey, can we put this in? Can we put this in? That was like after like talking to him. That was directly right after that. And then as soon as that happened, you saw me in the comments. I was liking everything I possibly could, and then trying to engage and explain to him, like, no, this is what this technique is called. The film itself is peeling itself. I'm pulling off the plastic after the film's already peeled it off. And then I kept getting it. I had one person who, he's like, I understand what you're saying, but I don't get it. And I was like, give me about 15 minutes. I'm close to my shop. I'll make a video real quick. Put the video together. And that was the big aha moment for me, where I realized kind of what content can do for your company, and let alone for the industry. Because the reach of that, I mean, that was the week you sent us the email of like, hey, you're trending in South Africa, which like made zero sense to me. Like the fact that our podcast was trending in business and entrepreneurship in South Africa. And then like I was going through the comments there was one guy I was engaging with talking about he had a product that was similar to film and he was asking could he do the same thing, and he had mentioned I live in South Africa. I'm like this reach is crazy, like, and then that's where I really was fully bought into like, all right, the podcast we have to keep doing, we have to keep creating more content, more engagement, and now with the studio, to be able the content we'll be able to create with the windows now are going over little tips and techniques and stuff and put out the freebie stuff. Like I just want to grow the industry. I want people to have good experiences with our industry, because usually what hurts our industry the most is that someone goes out and does something and unknowingly will install something the wrong way or leave a bad product up because they don't know any better. And the fact that you only know what you know, they're not doing it intentionally. They've never seen it. They've never been taught it or informed that you should do it like this. This is going to eliminate a light gap. This is going to make it more accepted as a standard, to where instead of walking into the restaurant where they got tinted by the guy down the street, doesn't know what he's doing, and you're looking at the pounds of dirt throughout the entire window, the big old gaps on the edges, the film curling, like, there's people walking into that establishment going like, that's why I don't tint my windows.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, that just hurts everybody. And
we've seen that with security films. I've ran into that in Texas, where these schools that have they have to install this product, but like they'll have bad experiences with some schmuck who, a company maybe got the job, they don't know what the hell they're doing, so they get a tinter. This guy's like, well, I can tint cars, I'm sure I can tint a flat window. So then they go in there and they hack it up with security film, champagne everywhere, using freaking outdoor sealant as Dow. And there was a story actually where like the superintendent was so disappointed, like so upset with the product, that she was like, I don't want this. Like it was an interesting like moment for me, like observing it, because she didn't say we have the wrong installer. She says, no, I don't want this, period. Because her first impression or her first taste of film on the glass was so bad that she threw the whole, what did this saying goes? It threw the whole kitchen out with the sink.
Baby out with the bathwater.
Baby out with the bathwater.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So then like, they had to come back in and fix it up. But yeah, it's 1,000% true.
Oh yeah. We had a project where we were going out to replace a window on a school. It was just solar film, but he went to measure the windows, and then he was looking at the front entrance and he's looking at it and he's like, that's security film. And then he saw the attachment on it. It was, the rubber was still intact, and they threw like an 1/8" bead between the film and the rubber. And they're like,
not the frame?
No.
No.
And they're like, oh, security film. We're like,
I pointed it out. I said,
No,
did you
it's
guys
not.
get security film put on here? Yeah. We got security film on here. And then I showed it to him. I'm like, you see this? Like, and then I showed him I could pull the gasket out, and it was just siliconed, like, and it was a small little bead. I was like, this isn't going to work. You guys need to get this redone. They didn't take me up on bidding them for it. I don't know what they did with it, but it was like, this is awful. Whoever did this should be ashamed. The only reason they're calling us is because they couldn't get a hold of that person. They probably already went out of business.
well, most likely. And the sad part is all it takes is something like that, where then you have like the worst case scenario, something actually unfortunate happens, and then it fails instantly. And then it's going to be, well, we put safety film on, it did nothing. They walked straight through it. And it's like, why are we even doing this?
Right. Yeah. And then they lose faith in the product.
Yeah.
When
And
it's like,
it takes one bad event. Like even when it came to like when the riots were happening and stuff during COVID, and they were watching windows cave in that had security film on them. And it's like, well, first off, why was it on there? Was it did they even have attachments on there? Or was it this there for, say, for blast, to where they're just trying to keep that piece of glass in one piece? They're not just trying to get people sprayed with glass. They're not really putting it on there to prevent someone breaking through it. So there's a bunch of different reasons why it might be on there. So don't judge it just by what you see in these small clips. Like, and then let alone
There was probably just somebody not
well,
attaching.
I'm
it.
saying, and then you get even further down that, it could just have been someone who landed the bid, who put it up, and again, they probably didn't know better, so they just put the security film up and then went about their business, and it just is what it is. And then you see all that footage, and it's just like, that looked so bad on our industry. Like, well, why the hell was that even done? That did nothing. They walked right through that window. It's like, well, because the proper procedures weren't followed. Like, it's not done correctly. Like, there's a reason why there is a standard when it comes down to it. And now with a lot of government jobs, like all those standards are actually very strict when it comes down to it. You better have that bead at the right size. And if it's not tested at the right size, you're redoing that job.
you know, I have a whole mouthful of that to talk about. There's so many problems with that. I mean, the first problem for me is like, first of all, security film's not designed to keep anyone out.
Yep.
That's the biggest thing. I mean, that's the biggest thing, has to be taught to everyone that sells security film. You're not putting something up to put somebody out. You're just putting it up to slow them down.
Yep.
You're after reaction time. You're not going to, I'm sorry. I mean, I've seen windows with 21 mil security and 7 mil on the outside. You're still getting through it. It may take you 3, 4 minutes, 5 minutes to get through it. But if somebody's on enough meth, there's no stopping them. You know what I mean? So,
oh no, absolutely. One of our clips that kind of popped was like when we sat down with my mom, we were talking, we were just having the conversation with her, and we just kind of got into safety films. And like, that was the one thing like I had mentioned. And I was like, safety films not an end all be all. Like, I can get through it because I know how to kind of break through that when it comes down to it, because I know how to install it. I know the whole point of it. But beyond that, say if you completely secure your window off, say put bars on it. If I move 2 feet over to the left, that's drywall. Give me a sledgehammer. I'm going to put a hole through your wall. I'm getting in no matter what, but it's a preventative measure to slow that person down, to buy you time. Either get the police there, get a security there. If you're in your home, to be able to grab your gun to protect yourself. Grab anything to protect yourself when it comes down to it. Get your family out of the house. Like, it is there to buy you time to where you can take the next step, the next measures to protect yourself. And then there's like numerous things. Like when we go on, at least when I was going on sales, if I'm putting security film up, I'd be looking in the seals of their windows. Oh, yeah. If you don't put a wood dowel down or a piece of PVC pipe and pry your window shut, like, you can security film your windows. I'm just going to shake your window and pop your lock, and I'm going to lift your window out of place. And I'm just going to step into your house. Like, I always heard that, and I didn't know how much I believed it until my in-laws locked themselves out of their house. Their deadbolt died on their front door. They're taking their dog for a walk. My mother-in-law shows up on my door at like 11:30 at night. She got her neighbor to drop her off, and she's just like ringing my doorbell. The first thing I wake up to is my doorbell is being rang off the hook because they don't have phones on them. I grab my gun, and then as I'm getting close to the front door, I can hear the voice. I'm like, Brittany, it's your mom. We open the door. She tells us what happened. Give me a sec. We drive over. I literally hopped on YouTube. Within 10 minutes, I was inside their house. I like walked over to a back window. I was like, let me see if this really works. Popped it. It lock popped. I lifted the window out, and I was like, all right, guys, first thing you're going to do tomorrow is go to Home Depot, go get some white PVC pipe, cut it just big enough to where it's literally pinched in there, and stop them from sliding the window over. Because even if I come put safety film on right now, I can still get into your house instantly if your window can be pressed open all the way. Like, you need to have all those measures. Like, security film is one measure. Next thing, get an alarm. Get a glass break alarm with it. And then put the dowels inside your windows. Do you have a dog? Dogs are great because they're going to let you know if someone's coming when it comes down, depending on what kind of dog you have. I had a sinister dog where she would just stay quiet and she would just go down the stairwell, like almost like greeting someone, like, please be someone I don't know, because I'm going to introduce you to a world of hurt. But like a Chihuahua, Chihuahuas are great. They hear everything. They're like little sirens. Yeah. And they let you know, like, hey, there's someone there that shouldn't be there right now. So it's just
anything there.
Well, yeah, no, that's for a certainty.
I just have a big problem with the industry and attachment system right now. Like, huge. It's like nobody's doing it right. Yeah. I mean, there are a few people. I shouldn't say nobody. That nobody's doing it right. Like, first of all, residential attachment system is, if you're adding that to a house, congratulations, you're just getting extra money because there's not enough bead usually to grab on the window to do anything. The second thing is, in the commercial space, nobody's pulling gaskets and putting backer rod in and then putting caulking in the right way. I mean, nobody is. They think they can go over the top. So the schools are getting more educated now. Yeah. And as Texas has jumped into this mad free fall of security film, that information is going to travel out. So if you're not going to do it correctly, you're going to get sued.
You have to set the expectation when it definitely comes down to it. When it comes to a commercial building, there's no reason not to do it the proper way. When there's plenty of shelf to lay the bead, put the backer rod on, take the rubbers out like you're supposed to, there's no reason to go around those steps at all. When it comes to residential, it's setting the expectation of letting them know, like, technically, this is what the bead needs to be. Your frame's not going to carry this. We're going to take the bead out as far as we possibly can and put as much on there to help slow it down, because I'm buying you time when it comes down to it. But there are the industry standards of this is what this film's rated for blast-wise, but you need a frame that's like this for me to do it properly. So, no, 100% agree.
Yeah,
100% agree.
And I don't know. That's the challenge right now, is getting that word out there. I mean, there are people that do it really. Chuck Cochranism. Everyone should go to the Chuck Cochran University of Attachment System. Yep. I mean, it's as simple as that.
100%.
No, that's the next place that we're sending 2 of our flat glass installers. As soon as I actually got to talk to him when we make it down to the show later today, I got to find him and find out when his next class is.
Especially because the tools he has too makes it so much easier.
Yeah, you're doing it to spec then, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just again, it's just really about getting the caulk into the window so it grabs the film to the glass and also to the frame.
Yep.
And if you just go over top of the rubber, you're just
Oh, you can't do that.
And it's not
That's
hard to
happening
put
every day.
backer rod
Yeah,
in. It's
that's-
really not that hard to put some backer rod
No.
in. Like,
that's an everyday thing though.
Yeah.
I mean, how many jobs can you go on right now? Out of 100 jobs that are being completed right now, how many are done correctly?
Safety film wise,
Yeah.
it's a low percentage for sure.
Yeah, I know it's almost terrifying to say.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There could be a good chance.
15%, maybe.
I bet you it's less than that
Yeah, sadly,
because
enough,
there's
probably.
no spec written that's given to those people because they don't understand. They're relying on us.
Yep.
In that situation, you said, you went there where they threw out the baby with the stink water, whatever, that whole situation.
Stink water. I like that.
You know what I mean? So like that whole situation is getting that information out to the general public is it's stonewalled. So this is why I've found with the bigger guys that do security film, and this is a little nugget. They're dealing with guys that are like, I don't know why Israelis are so into the like security field, but they are. They're usually like the guy on the scene who's in charge of a major building in almost every situation. It's the weirdest thing I've ever seen. But they're not on Google at night searching for you. They're going to find you. So if you're doing something correctly, eventually someone who's qualified is going to find you to reach out to you. And because I'm just saying, it's like, think about it from a big level. Let's just use a major corporation. I don't care which one you use. Let's just say T-Mobile, whatever. There's guys that are in charge of physical security are not on Google searching for a company to put security film in, cameras, anything that relates to security. They can't trust that.
Yeah.
They have to go off a track record.
Yep.
So you have to do certain things to put yourself in the best position to get in front of those guys. And the first one is learning how to do it correctly.
Yep.
And I don't know how to get the customer on the back end that education, because that's where we see the most failures is window tint guys go in. I hate them for it. I do. I really do. And they go in and they tell someone, they mislead them with the product.
Yeah.
For how long did you hear that window film was bulletproof?
Oh, I see that on websites. It literally blows my mind why I see, because like you'll have the
Yeah.
security firm companies that it's like, we do security, we'll do the screens, we'll offer the tint, which when they're offering the tint, all they're really doing is they're subbing that work out when it comes down to it. And and then I'll see the tint shops where I'll see on their website, well, it'll say safety film, bulletproof. I'm just like, why? Like, what are you doing? Like, this is, that's bullshit. Unless you're switching their glass out, putting bulletproof glass,
Polycarbonate.
Yeah, putting that on and then putting a film on for God knows what reason.
But even then, there's still a bigger bullet.
Yep.
That's the problem. Like you can get polycarbonate rated up to a 50 cal, but there's still a bigger bullet. It could be a car. You know what I mean? Like I'm struggling with the industry right now on that, just because I want a solution. I want to figure out how to get specs in front of people because I want the guys that do it correctly to be rewarded for that.
Yep.
We just need more people putting out the good information, right?
More content.
More content on
content.
what that standard is, what that spec is, and the more people that actually.
How important is the Tinter Battles platform now?
Oh yeah.
You should have a competition where you can only do it once because the windows will be ruined. But have I don't know
Like
how
a
you would
breakthrough
get
competition? Breakthrough battles.
You would have to like literally have them do it, safety film it like the first day of the competition, and then like the last day of the competition, they're like, all right, we're gonna see who laid the best speed and who laid it down. And I don't know how you take the variables out on that, but that'd be fun.
I know a way you could do it. It would be kind of difficult, but you're right. You'd have to do the whole job one day, and then I would have to.
You still gotta let
Maybe
it cure
get-
for at
yeah,
least 72 hours.
yeah,
though.
yeah.
So
That's
that's
all
a
right.
problem.
Because you could take a weight on a rope, right?
Yeah.
And you could drop it at different levels and keep bringing that up further.
That's a
and
good
further.
video content to make in
I
general.
like
might
that.
not be
Turn
part
the
of a
glass flat and
competition.
just change the heights as you're releasing
Yep,
something.
which would cause more
yeah,
impact.
because you're not relying
Well,
on
that's
someone
how they-
swinging.
Well, that's how they do it anyways. Like, I don't know if you know how that testing is done. That's how they
Yeah,
test it anyways.
yeah.
They take the glass and they put it, in a frame, whatever, and
Yeah,
then they
2x4 in a cannon.
and they drop it. Well, it's more accurate to do it with a
Yeah.
weight. So they'll start with like a 25 pound weight and they'll drop it and they'll get it further and further. That causes more and through mathematics, the complicated art of addition and subtraction, they figured out how much that impact ratio is. And that's how they determine it actually.
Yeah. I've
Yeah.
seen the
So
one. I've seen that, and then I've also seen the ballistic one where they shoot the 2x4.
Yes.
And then the blast mitigation one where they show the difference of all the different films, like different thicknesses
capping
with
on.
the same size bomb.
It's industry leaders like us who have a responsibility to make sure we get the correct information out there. I mean, it's as simple as that. It really is. It lies on our shoulders because there's going to be a lot of guys that will always never tell the truth for $1.
Yeah. If you want to know what the specific spec for doing security film is, attachments, Chuck Cochran.
Absolutely.
No, every time.
Go to Chuck.
Yep.
Like that's who we go to.
Yep.
I got an issue with the industry. 98% heat rejection.
Oh man.
Oh God.
Oh, here we go.
I wasn't going to bring that up.
Yeah.
I was going to stay away from that one because I've seen it from the outskirts, kind of the back and forthness. I mean, that's the.
It's just one individual that likes to muddy the. It's not. It's not even that this person is wrong. It's just the way that they're going about these things. It's just like, look, if there is an inefficiency in information, or if there is a gap in education to the end consumer, then fill it.
Yes.
Make content. Put it on your website. Hire someone. Put it on your website. SEO the blog post. But for fuck's sake, don't go after other dealers and trash them, because at the end of the day, you're not affecting the end consumer market at all.
No, you're just trashing people. Yeah. No, that's the one thing that I've seen with how he's handled it is the fact of, if you have a problem with it, then make a video and throw your explanation up, and then just how do you combat information? Just more information. Put the information out to let people make their own minds up when it comes down to it. Put those pieces of information in front of the person, explain the differences between them. And that's what you can do instead of just sitting there solely attacking someone over and over again.
Yeah. Because I mean, like the difference between and it's true, like there's infrared heat rejection and then there's teaser, and there's differences between the two. And if you can educate on that, I think the industry would benefit from educating on the differences between the two. Because even me, like I'd be able to tell you a little bit about the difference, but like it's not like EDTM. When I asked him, this is he went after me when this was WFCT was going around, and I was like, you know what, let me try to do something that's productive. So I went to the guy from EDTM, Mark, and I was asking him questions about like, where is the source of heat? Where does it really come from? The difference with teaser, that's a podcast in itself for him to be able to break down in terms of how heat works, and talking about, heat gain coefficient or shading coefficients, heat gains and all that sort of stuff. Like that's all valuable information, but you're never going to educate by bashing others or trashing somebody else. And I don't have a problem with the information. I have a problem with the way that it's being executed, but
No, understandable. No, Mark, we will get Mark on here. I know he's there this week. We're going to try to get him on this week. And beyond that, we're going to, for at least even for Flat Glass, we're going to end up filming modules with Kyle Fuller from Tint Pros. He's going to come in because he'll go with Mark and sell his meters at the shows, because for a tinter, you can talk to Mark. Mark is an unbelievable amount of knowledge, but I know how tinters are. When it comes down to it, they look at him like, you're not one of us. Yeah. I know I trust you, but how much do I trust you? Now, if it's a dealer or someone who's actually using it in the field for us, for tinting wise, like Kyle crushes because it's relatable. He knows how to talk, I guess, our language when it comes down to it. And we're going to bring Kyle in, and Kyle's going to go through every single one of the meters of what the use is, how you use it. And we're going to go through all the windows and make it like short videos and edit them down to have different modules. Like, this is why we use this meter. This is what this meter does. And then have them actually use it. Because that's probably the biggest reason why we were probably intimidated, at least for myself, of using those meters is like, am I using it properly? Like, it's definitely a tool to have, and especially for flat glass, definitely a tool you got to use when it comes to solar films.
Yeah.
That it's like we were using it, and like at the time when we weren't using it, like mid 2000s, like 2010, like glass was glass. It wasn't how far along as it is right now. Right now, the technology in glass is, if you're not using a meter, you're taking on so much liability when you're applying solar films, especially when you start getting into ceramics or especially selective films, where it's a high-end clear film where it will do what it's supposed to do on the proper window, or you're just selling someone snake oil and charging them almost $30 a square foot for a film that your window's already doing everything that film is doing, which it's like the glass companies are taking that film away from us. But at the same time, then the manufacturer's going, well, hey, go to exterior. Before it even ever gets to that coating, attack the heat before it gets to the coating. And then they're making their film so much more efficient and more reliable to where now you have like 10-year warranty on exterior films, to where you want the best heat rejection possible, go exterior. Throw a dark reflective on the outside. You're not going to get better than that. You can get up to 91% heat rejection with the SolarGuard's got a product, DX5, 91% heat rejection.
Yeah, that's teaser.
That's teaser.
Yeah, there you go. You got to make a distinguisher. Are you going to be on the target chopping block next time?
So, I mean, That's I think the most legitimate number.
91 teaser is pretty like that's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever heard
chemical
of that.
based.
Huh?
The manufacturing of that. How do they get the teaser that high?
No, because it's
It's
exterior and
it's
it's
exterior
60%
dual
reflective. So since you're on surface 1 and you're reflecting 60%.
So I understand that, and anyone who listens to this podcast, when you talk about surface 1, 2, 3, and 4,
Yeah.
you need
So
to
the
understand
outside
that.
surface.
Yeah, so-
The exterior surface, yes.
Right.
So yeah, so, like,
So that's why I pulled you down the rabbit hole on that.
Yeah.
well, yeah, because I mean, even like at least with our interaction, because we've been Solar Guard for 30 plus years, where Saint Gobain has been taking Solar Guard, or at least their direction for the past couple of years, they've definitely have invested heavily on going exterior, because they are Saint Gobain's a European based company, and all the glass over there is ahead of us.
Really?
A lot of the coatings now are starting to appear on Surface 4, which would be the interior panel.
Yeah. 2
You
and
ain't
4.
putting tint on that when it comes down to it. So if you're going to do anything to that window, you have to go exterior. Otherwise, this tint's going to no longer exist, and we're not going to be able to install in these new windows.
And
Not to say there's already so much damn glass everywhere that is cleared and annealed glass that's doing nothing for you, but then you get a quote to replace your windows, and it's like, oh, it's going to cost me $120,000 to replace the glass in my house, or I can tint my house for $5,000 to $6,000.
Yeah, but then we've even come across homes in like Anthem that are 20-year-old homes
That's true.
that I've metered, and
Hard
at the
coats.
time back then, Surface 3 hard coat was the thing.
You put
And
anything
we
on
weren't
that.
metering that. Now I'm metering it, and I'm like, hey, we got to go exterior.
There's a lot of information
Yeah.
and surfaces
Yeah.
that is also way behind and
Way
educated.
behind.
Oh,
People
yeah.
are not educated
Way
in.
behind.
Oh,
I've
we
learned
were
so
way
much
behind.
about that in the last year and a half, and as long as I've been doing this, how uneducated I was and I thought I knew compared to what I've learned in the last
I mean,
2
we,
years.
on the coast, it's a lot of
Crazy.
laminated glass. I mean, there's so many different challenges inside of
Yeah.
everything you're talking about. Like, it's becoming a good flat glass dealer there's a lot of education there.
Oh,
People
for sure.
don't take they can start hanging flat glass, but they need to start learning what they're hanging it on.
Yeah. We got a decent commercial job recently because I was the only person that came out and bid it. That they already had one section of office done, is all east facing, and that area they said was the worst, and that's the area they already tinted. I got up there and looked at it. It was a really bad install with gaps because the windows were like a half inch off of being 36, and somebody was being cheap and like.
Let me just
But
send
like, I
this
looked
up real
at it and
quick.
was like, "Oh, this is awful." And then I metered one of the windows from the outside that wasn't tinted, and then I checked a couple more of them, and like, okay, yeah, this is all Surface 3 hard coat. You made those. That's why that room's the worst room. You made the situation worse. So I was the only person to give them a proposal for exterior film, and my bid was way higher than everybody else's. We had to get lifts and stuff, and they didn't even question going with us. When we put the film on, there was one section that our lift couldn't reach, so we had to come back and do it. But that gave them one day of feeling one of the windows not tinted compared to all the other films that we just put exterior on, and they couldn't believe the difference. Like where somebody else had come and put interior film, claiming it was going to do something, made the problem worse. Like, it was a done deal.
Comes down to education every
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Every time it's education.
I want to ask you guys, how beneficial has doing a podcast been for your local business as Green Valley? And like, has that helped you into bringing in other people like contractors, building
yeah.
relationships with the
Yeah,
community?
even end consumer, like residential customers, man. That was one of the things I didn't expect to happen immediately. I figured it would be like a slow burn, but even just like the clips from the podcast, I've had customers that I've gone on consultations that I'll ask like how they knew they could tint their house or how they find us, and like, oh, I came across I didn't even know you could tint your house. I saw a clip on Instagram, and I've even listened to an episode of the podcast, and I'm like,
Consumer confidence right
I
there.
did not expect
You
that.
just
And
waste
yeah,
an
and
hour
those
listening to
jobs
us
are
talk?
like, they're probably not even getting a bid from anybody else.
Yeah.
And they
Okay.
didn't even know they could tint their house. But a lot of the times, even just the clips of the podcast have been enough to be the thing that educates them that they can even tint their home. And I get that answer all the time on consultations when I ask, how'd you know you could tint your home? Some people are like, oh, I've always known. But I've had a lot of people like your guys' Instagram. And that's been consistent. That's been crazy. And our consultations scheduled for the year is up like 72%.
It's helped tremendously. It got us consistent on posting content, so that helped our social media grow. And then just putting out that you could do it, we're getting customers that they're not reaching out to anyone else because they didn't know it could be done. And then we were the ones that were able to tell them. And then just by they saw a clip and they see another clip. And then if it gets them trickled into the funnel of you actually listen to us talk for an entire hour, like you've already consumed, say 2 hours worth of content from us. But by the time we walk in your door, that trust has already been built. Like we've already had that initial conversation. Like you already feel like you know us to a point because you've heard us talk about the subject over and over again about the type of glass or which solar film that you'd want to go with or safety films or anything like that. But it's
plus we're not just having people from the tin industry on. And this is one of my, like, there's two parts of the thesis I had was educate people that this is even a thing. And now we're creating new customers, which is definitely proven out. But also we're having other guests on that are customers of ours, contractors. We've had someone who owns a bunch of hair salons out here that we've been doing work for years. Kind of looked at Rogan's model of like, he has so many different diverse people on that already have their own audiences. Like, can we have people on here locally? A gym owner that's someone I've known forever. We had him on, and within 2 weeks, one of their gym members contacted us to come put security film on their physical therapy office.
I see, yeah.
So like the audience of the guests we're having on that are local people that we either do work with or are friends of ours that have businesses or whoever, they're already someone we already network with, have them on as a guest, try to promote the thing they're doing. They're going to share it on their socials. And now their audience is now possibly following along. That's gotten us work for sure too already. So, and we haven't even done, now we can do a lot more of those because we were limited to only doing 4 a month. Now it's like,
Yeah.
we can do a lot more.
And
now that we've got this. So this is, I think, going to change the game.
And now when we have the opportunity, we can just pull the trigger right then and just do it instead of, hey, 3 weeks from now at this time, does this work for you? Now we can just be like, hey, do you want to have a conversation real quick?
You can
like,
be reactive.
Yeah.
oh yeah. And it's definitely now gotten to a point where it's definitely, like you said, kind of like how Rogan is. It's like, these are conversations that I would want to have no matter what. And they interest me. Like, and then also, because I was always kind of wondering, like, how are we going to have someone else from a different industry on? When we have someone from a different industry, now it just becomes like, I want to have a business conversation with you. How'd you grow your business? What worked? How did you get your consumer to come in? Like, and I'm starting to realize that business is business when it comes down to it. Doesn't matter what industry you're in, you're going to have the same kind of issues when it comes to acquiring the customer, making the sell. How are you retaining your installers? How do you replenish your installers? Like, we had a conversation with one of my good buddies who he runs a privately owned dental firm out here, Vegas's biggest one, and like where he's got himself to in the company is where that he runs the operations of that, but also they have 2 academies that they run at the same time. One's for dental hygienists and one's for, I think, assistants, to where they are having people come in, take their classes to get accreditations, and then after they have the accreditations, now they get the pick of the litter of who's the best that came through here. Hey, you want a job? To where they know what their percentage is and how often they're losing someone at any one of their locations, to where they have a constant funnel of people being able to put right back into their other company, to where it's all just feeding itself. Like, for me, that was the grand scheme of opening the academy, is get to the point where, yes, we can expand out from just installation knowledge to actually glass knowledge, how we operate our business, how we cut our patterns, how we try to be as efficient as possible, getting to our consumer, getting the patterns ready, our procedures of how we go into a house and execute a job, to where when that all starts going, as we're running the academy, if I see someone that stands out, it's, hey, if we have a large project, would you be interested in subcontracting? Or, hey, you looking for a different situation? Do you want to move to Vegas, or do you already live in Vegas? Do you want to jump on board with our team and be one of our installers, to where we always have a funnel to keep, because that's our biggest bottleneck right now, which I'm assuming for most tint shops, it's labor. Like, especially installing, especially for flat glass.
If you're growing.
Yeah, it's like,
especially now that the content from this has grown, the leads coming in and the consultations, like, that is definitely the biggest bottleneck we have. It already was, but yeah. And we've had several installers that are automotive installers from out here that are just following along on the content already, with us just casually talking about doing this before we even had anything in here, wanting to get into flat glass. That it's like, in my mind, those guys are perfect. You're in a small little automotive shop and that's what you're doing. And when you want to do, but you want to get into flat glass, and bring them through. And if they're good, like, as far as not even necessarily the skill, but the quality of the person, their work ethic, that kind of stuff, and they're coachable, like that might be someone we can help develop into. They keep doing their auto thing, and now we have an extra subcontractor for a big commercial project that it's just growing the network of who we have access to when we have a big commercial job or even a big residential job for that matter.
Yep.
But that was kind of like all the synergies of it. And so far, it's crazy. It doesn't even feel like it's been a year yet.
No.
But how far it's come and how much it's come from it, it's kind
Yeah.
of crazy. It feels like it's been 5 years because I didn't expect to have as much come back from it as quick as it did.
Well,
I mean, our flat glass department's up 70% this year.
I mean, I found the analytic on it that people scroll the size of the Empire State Building or the Statue of Liberty every day on their phone.
Yep. Where'd you see that?
I heard it on a pretty well-known podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I might be on it right now.
I don't know. I've been like these last couple of weeks. I've been flirting with the idea of launching one because I had done I did a podcast. Like I had a concept back in 2018 because at that time nobody in the industry was doing anything, and so I was like, you know, coming from Joe Rogan, I watched his show, and so I'm like, you know, I want to give it a shot, and so I ended up doing one episode. I think it was just one with Jason Omeletsky, and I drove up to him, Colorado. We set up a little, you know, this little setup in a room. It's online, yeah, but I only did it one time. Then I've seen how you guys have been able to do it, and like it's cool. I like having conversations with people. I like be able to connect with people, and then like not only just industry people, but I want to get to know more of my community itself, and in a way that also that's beneficial to them. You know, so if we bring in like local business people and you get to know who they are, and they get to tell their story, then you know, I think that's something that would be beneficial for us.
That's the thing I love about it is it's like there's the selfish side that we're getting exposed to their network. But to be able to expose them to our network, it's like there's a synergy
relationship.
there.
Yeah,
It's literally just making that relationship now digital and out there for everybody to see that conversation you had, both sides of the equation. It benefits everybody.
I mean, the contractor that helped build out this place and do like the full remodel on our shop, like I ran across him, like he did some work at my house to begin with, and like how he responded and everything was like, all right, like, A, you've already won my business because you're calling me back, you're on time, you actually got the work done when you said you were going to, and like there's zero issue. So then I brought him over here and kind of explained to him what we wanted to do, and he was just on the spot with everything. And I was like, you want to come on the podcast? Like, I would love to sit down and talk with you, because like the one biggest problem we've had, I'd say, growing up in this industry and us going through our different remodels and stuff in this building, because we've been in different spots in this building and then we were able to buy sections of it to where it's like we know we're not going nowhere, is finding a contractor that was reliable, that would take on, I guess, the smaller project or an off-ball project, but like how he operated his business is like, I didn't even call and get quotes from anyone else. Like, why was I going to waste my time? Like, sure, could I have saved some money? Maybe. I don't know. But I don't care to spend my time to figure that out, because he offered me everything that I'm trying to offer to my customers too, is be timely, respond back instantly, offer a high-end quality install, high-end product, and get the job done correctly, and walk you through the entire process to where you are comfortable the entire time. He did exactly that. And I was like, I would love to have a conversation with you. He sat down, we had the conversation. It's like, building those were the episodes that like I said, I was the most scared, I guess, of doing, because it's like, how am I going to talk with this person for an hour? Like anyone within our industry, majority of the time, it's if we will get to a point, it's like, all right, not say we have to wrap it up, but we are getting to a point where we're kind of bumping up to like, hey, it's been 2 hours.
Well, in the past, we've had to. When we're using the studio, we had a little time window. Now it's kind of, I know some of these are going to be long. We've already had a couple that have already gone long, and it's cool. Like you listen to Rogan. Sometimes they're like, damn, this has been 4 hours long. Now it's kind of cool that we can do that.
Getting the side eye from Joe.
I think are we getting?
No, he's looking over at us because when it's our hour. Because that's the other aspect of it. When you are going through, and it's not necessarily editing the podcast, it is to a point, but it's also pulling the clips from it too. It's now you're going back to that conversation. You want to find your right clips. So it just adds more to it. But in the long run, we have now a year's worth of episodes that we have at least 5 to 7 clips per episode. I know for a certainty we go back through, listen to those conversations again, and probably pull another 5 to 7 clips that have nothing to do with those previous clips. So having all the time in the world to keep kind of talking and allow the conversation to go it only going to benefit us in the long run because we're just going to have more capability of putting out more clips that'll help everyone out when it comes down to it. And then talking with anyone within the industry, it's majority of the time I don't get to see you guys, but maybe once or twice a year. It's definitely has gone up because of all the competitions now. But any person that I haven't seen like in over a year within our industry that I'm friends with, like it's not that hard to sit down and just have a conversation and you realize like, oh, we've been talking for 3 hours. And like it's like, I mean, even yesterday at SEMA, like whenever I'm walking through, you see one person, you start talking with, and you realize like, oh shit, it's been an hour. It's like I gotta go over here now. And then you go over there and you're trying to manage your time to you want to talk to as many people as you possibly can, because within any of those conversations, you learn so much without knowing that's even going to happen. It just organically happens when it comes down to it.
Yeah, I see you got a lot. So is there restrictions on what topics you bring up in here or anything like that?
No.
I don't care
I
less.
see you got a lot of hats back here, but I don't see no MAGA hat.
Well, I got my Make America Healthy Again
Oh,
hat,
there you go.
which is close.
RFK, nice.
My sister got that me for as a gift.
I didn't even notice that candy
it's
on
got
the
the
back
candy.
too.
Yeah,
That's
it's got
awesome.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome.
I mean, it's like the day after. I don't know when this is going to come out, but it's the day after the election.
Yeah, it was the morning after, and luckily it's over and called, and it was.
I feel like it was more chaotic in 2016 when Trump won at that time than what we're seeing.
No,
like
that's because he
now.
wasn't supposed to win at all. I mean, it was totally like a slap in the face to everybody. Everybody's like, "What's going on?" Nobody understood. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I guess they've already had that. I mean, there's a couple meltdowns, on
Yeah.
social media, but
I feel like this time, I was actually telling them earlier, this almost felt like a setup. Like this felt like, to me, this is the first time I felt like it, like going into yesterday, I was telling everybody, I think he's going to win on a landslide. The media keeps saying it's going to be close, but it seems like they did everything they possibly could to make sure he won. Almost as if they know the economy's a giant bubble and they want it to pop while he's in office.
All right. Get the tinfoil hat off.
Well,
now.
I'm not being tinfoil hat. I'm just saying, like
Might be
that's
100%.
in my mind.
I'm
It
interested
felt
in-
like that. It felt like it was going to be that big of a slam
What
dunk. She was the most disliked vice president in history.
If you just knew how to read the tea leaves, it kind of seemed like that was going to happen.
The Kennedy endorsement, the Tulsi Gabbard,
Gabbard,
the Elon,
Yeah.
and I really think Elon will actually get some stuff done. Like, if there's anybody that can make anything more efficient, it's
dude,
Elon
the guy's
Musk.
a fucking executor. Like, look at his life and what he's done and what he owns. Like, you don't get to
it
that.
seemed like it was going to be a slam dunk in my mind. This is the first time I'm comfortable being
Couldn't you
openly
place a bet on
pro-Trump.
it? Couldn't you place a bet on it here in Vegas?
Oh yeah,
Not in
not in
Vegas,
Vegas, but there's online
there are
betting.
online betting
Yeah.
that you could have.
And the line just kept.
Kalshi was one that I kept staring at, like refreshing yesterday. It's like, all right, he's up. He's kept going up, and
They were trying to get money on the other side. They were
Yeah,
trying to entice
'cause
people
nobody
to
was
bet the
betting
other
their
side.
side.
But I don't think anyone else
Yeah.
was like, I don't care if you're going to offer me
Gambling lines, I
$1,000
think, are
$100.
going to be more predictive in the future than any pollster.
oh yeah, you put your money on.
Yeah.
Well, they
on
are
the
because
line.
now everyone can
Yeah.
openly do it at
Yeah.
the same time all the way across the country. So you're seeing everyone who is putting like that is the poll when it comes down to it. And you
Now
see
look
the
how
line
good the-
moving the one way. It's because they're trying to get money on the other side because all they care about while taking a bet is we want this to land 50-50.
Yeah, that's
it
what.
lands 50-50. We're going to take our piece
Yeah.
and we'll be happy.
Yeah, that's the one thing growing up here, and especially having people that really understand sports betting, like having that explained to me, like really made it make a lot more sense to why they're so accurate with setting those lines. There is a market of people that are doing everything they can to figure out any advantage they can to see where the line's off, and they're going to bet on the other side of it when it's clear based off of math.
Yeah.
And now they're using like bots and stuff to really figure it out. But all the casino cares about is, can they get an even amount on each side?
Yep.
They're moving the line because if they can have $1 million on one side and $1 million on the other and it's dead even, they don't care who wins.
They take their
They're
10%
taking their
right off
vig
of
out
this,
of the
you know.
middle. They win no matter what. So they're moving the line to push people to bet on the other side that's not being bet on. And you got a whole marketplace of people that are doing the math and doing their own polls and figuring out where there's somebody injured or whatever. And I'm sure the exact same thing's happening for politics. Somebody out there is looking at all the different polls and combining them and putting them in a bot and figuring out what's really happening. And the whole crowd of people doing that and betting is coming up with, I think, a pretty predictive marketplace.
Patrick Bet David, he was doing a live last night.
I love that dude.
He had that race called like hours before.
Yeah.
Really?
And
Yeah.
he
He was way ahead the whole
He
night.
called Georgia
Like,
about
way
3
ahead.
hours before anyone else did.
How did he do that?
Same way they're
looking
doing
at
it.
the math.
Looking at the precincts being reported,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
where those precincts have voted previously, how many votes that she would have needed to catch him, and vice versa, how many votes he would need to catch her. And like the same way the news channels were doing it, it's just they were definitely a lot more comfortable
The
with
news
calling
channels
it
were
much
trying,
earlier.
well, and he didn't care. He's not trying to draw the ratings out for hours. Mainstream media, they probably knew they could have called it, but they're going
They
to
were
lose
trying
ad
to get people-
revenue if they don't stretch it throughout the whole night. They could have called it earlier. They didn't want to, and they want more ads.
Yeah, they didn't want to call Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
You could feel it. They kept saying, "Oh, it's too."
Yeah.
And I was like, "How's that? That's fine."
I mean, it's gonna be interesting to see like how politics changes from here on out, because it seems like, you know, like especially during 2020, there was a lot of like finicky shenanigan kind of stuff, and then there were like certain rules that were changed. But I actually, especially after 2016, because that one wasn't supposed to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, arguably, I would say
Well,
this one
20
was
was
supposed
like-
to happen either had there been a certain
20
thing
COVID.
successful, you know.
Well, COVID really made that one to where
That was the big curveball.
Yeah.
I mean, and also too, I truly believe where he lost in 2020 was he lost the people that had said, all right, let's give it a try. And then in their eyes, he didn't do the things that he said he was going to, drain the swamp and maybe lock her up and stuff like that, to where on 2020, they were just like, I'm good. I don't want to. Or the independent that swayed that way. It's like, I don't feel like much was done for me, so I'm going to try the other side. And they went the other way. And then we've seen how the last 4 years went. And then
and
I
know-
assume it was going to
and-
be a lot.
And to
landslide.
not have to wear a tinfoil hat, there was corruption as far as
that's
the
proven.
Twitter files totally
Oh, yeah.
show
Yeah.
that like the Hunter Biden
Laptop
laptop
was
thing.
like
if that would have
suppressed,
actually
yes.
been covered by the corporate media the way it should have been,
Yeah.
he probably would have won without any of the other allegations,
It was
right?
kind of like I felt like I was drawing a parallel like during that Hunter Biden laptop situation. It was similar to the Hillary Clinton, you know, the email leaks and everything that was happening with her, and the FBI kind of coming out with some stuff. But I saw that with in 2020 it was like it was suppressed. And Joe Rogan said it the other day on his podcast, like if you wouldn't have bought Twitter, you know, who knows where this thing could have gone.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. That was a big issue for me. Get rid of all the other policies and stuff. The side that's trying to censor free speech is anti-American to me. And like having served in the military, like you don't swear like allegiance to the president or anything. Like when you sign into the military, you swear to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And the First Amendment is the First Amendment for a reason. And anybody that's trying to censor Americans from speaking anything that's not like calling for violence is the enemy of the people in my mind. And it was like, that was the one thing, regardless of how many other things I agree with on both sides, the side that is actively trying to censor and suppress is probably not your friend.
Through fact checking.
Yeah.
But who's fact
Well,
checking?
that's the thing. It's in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah.
Like, hate speech. It's like,
Yeah.
well, who's defining hate speech here?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? It's
that's
like,
why the First Amendment's the First Amendment.
like it
And
has
that's
to
why
be,
it's protected by the Second Amendment.
Yeah. It's like in that movie Spider-Man, there's that cliche, with great power comes great responsibility. I'm like, yeah, with the great freedom comes the ability where sometimes like you have to be willing to get a little hurt, because at the end of the day, they're words. It's like you don't try to manipulate what words can be said. You just try to make people more resilient to the inevitable, like this sometimes happens. Like,
I grew up in a time, I'm born in 84, which is ironic because it does feel like we live in some type of Orwellian like world. Like that was the other thing
like
Elon
84,
said,
George
like make
Orwell.
Orwell fiction again thing is, but I remember sticks and stones may hurt my bones,
yeah.
but names will never hurt me. Like that was something that was said on the regular. And now it feels like if you said that today, you'd be like ostracized. Like, no, like that was like,
Stop
that
being a
was
hateful person, dude.
There's certain virtues that I feel like have gotten lost that need to come back. Like, and that's one of them. Like, you know, like the resilience, there's certain virtues like resiliency, persistence, perseverance, like
sensitivity.
right. Yeah. I mean, like not every, like, dude, part of the journey is the downs and you know, the ups and the lows. And like without the lows, the highs don't feel as good. And, you know, without the highs, you don't really learn from the lows. Cause like that's part of life. But I feel like a lot of kind of maybe like politics or what gets pushed is to try to protect and insulate people from the lows, by bringing everything else down, bring the standards down to.
Oh, it's infantile.
That's
it's
the one that you can't do.
infantizing people. Like we have to protect you.
Yeah.
We have to protect you.
But see, like that's a
like,
tricky thing too, because
like-
it's like in the interest of safety and protection, like we're gonna take these rights from you
No, yeah.
because we want to keep you safe, and like
that's the scary part.
because you're not smart enough to figure it
Exactly.
out. For
It's
yourself.
really
kiss
like-
my ass.
I don't know. It really does seem like the more someone's trying to protect you from yourself, the more they're saying like you're not capable of doing it. And it's like, where's liberty? Where's freedom in that?
Yeah.
Like it has to go away.
Oh, one of the dumbest ads I saw being ran was, if he wins, he is going to go to sleep stewing about his enemies to go after him. It's like, so exactly what you've been
Yeah.
doing for the past 2 years now.
I would say more than
would-
that, bro.
Yeah,
The
that's
whole
what I mean.
time.
Like
No.
The
you're
whole
literally
time.
doing it right now, and then you're making an ad saying that's what he's going to do. When he actually had that opportunity for 4 years, he could have locked Hillary up.
Yeah.
Without a doubt, he could have. He could have at least. He definitely could have pursued it and made it a big thing.
yeah,
And his response was, "I don't think it'll be good for the country."
Exactly.
And like,
Yep.
how do you not like or at least respect that response of going, "Okay, all right, I'm gonna give you a chance." At least give him a chance. And besides
Yeah.
the fact of just saying and just repeating the same shit over and over and over again, it's just like I saw that. I'm just like, it's hard for me to wrap my head around this. It just is. I mean, I voted for him all 3 times when it came down to it. Like
Same
the
here.
first time, it was I couldn't vote for Hillary because of the pure blatant corruption of her stealing it from Bernie. If Bernie would have
Oh,
been,
dude.
if they would have put Bernie in, I would have voted for Bernie. And I was like, I can't vote for you because I can see blatantly where you cheated. And like, nope, I'm good.
Dude, I
I'm
was
gonna vote for him.
I was a Bernie Sanders delegate at the county convention for the caucus here and
Oh,
at the
was he?
state convention. And I was at the state convention here where they put all over the national news that Sanders delegates like were throwing chairs and causing chaos, which I was there. It didn't
Yeah.
happen.
really.
And instead what happened was at the county convention, she had won the initial caucus because it's like everybody shows up at their caucus, everybody votes, and then each caucus is supposed to send delegates to the county convention. Well, at the county convention, not all of her people showed up, and alternates for Sanders showed up, like a lot of alternates for Sanders. And if your delegates don't show up, they get filled by whatever alternates are there. So when it actually happened, all of a sudden, Clark County caucus flipped Nevada from being a Clinton state to a Bernie state because more of his people showed up than hers, like a lot more.
I'm so happy. I voted
And
for Gary Johnson that year.
It was so crazy. It was like, okay, cool. That's actually where the people support. And then go to the state convention, same thing happened. There was way more Sanders supporters there.
Yeah.
And it's like a verbal vote. This thing took forever, got drawn out forever. By the time they get down to the end to do a verbal vote for who do you vote for, the entire room, 70% of the room voted for Sanders. 40% of the room votes for Hillary. It's very clearly like noticeable based off of the audio response.
yeah,
And the person on front, standing on the up front, who's the head of the Democratic Party in Nevada, calls it for Clinton, gavels it closed, and everybody on the stage walks out, and Metro Police walk in as a wall of just to like fill the stage. And everybody's like, what just happened? And like all the Sanders people are like, screw that, we're not leaving. Like, we're going to sit here and make them arrest us. And Sanders campaign people came around and told everybody, no, don't do that, just leave. Not one chair was thrown. There was no violence. There was nothing. Then the national media story that got covered on that was that Sanders supporters are throwing chairs and being violent. And it's like, no, we just watched them steal Nevada in person live.
yeah.
And that's not the story that's being told. So I saw that. And then I've basically, since that election, I've been like very non-political because it actually woke me up. When Trump won, I was like, all right, I just need to go take care of my own life. Like, I'm focusing on shit that doesn't
Agreed.
matter. Listening to stuff like Andy Stump's podcast. He's got this thing where he talks about like people, you've got a giant billboard, which is all the things that are happening in the world and in your life. And like the bullseye is the things that you can affect. And the further out you get from that, you have less effect on. Too many people are focusing on the outer ring of the bullseye and not doing shit to the bullseye. Like, so like that mindset got me to like, I lost a bunch of weight. I started taking care of myself. Started focusing more on my business. We've grown this. And like, I haven't really been political at all. I've tried to be quiet about politics for the most part.
Yeah, me
the
too.
last couple of days, I've felt a need to post a little bit
Stay in the
of
middle.
like the Rogan podcast
Yeah.
and
Money
like,
screen on
because
both
that's
sides.
at least like 3 hours of listening to somebody who might be the next president have a real conversation. That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Like at least listen to it. Like, But that's the crazy thing is most people that have gotten into like Trump derangement syndrome, they only get clips that are negative, twisted clips.
Yeah.
And they're like, I can't even listen to him speak. So they won't even sit and listen to him
Right.
talk for an hour because they've been told how evil everything is.
I will say the one thing about this election that I'm very neutral and try to keep anything like that off the world of social media.
Yeah.
But I will say this because it does affect us. We're business owners and things, but I do not, and I still don't understand how they were able to really skip the caucus for this election with her, how they just nominated her.
That's the other thing. That was
Well,
like there was
there's a reason
clearly
why he
like
wanted a
the
landslide.
Democratic Party, they've been doing that for a while. I watched them do it with Sanders. It was crazy.
I thought Sanders won that. That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. So it's
Yeah.
almost like, but that's,
That is like a that's not an opinion like what you're saying. Like that's true. Like there was no primaries for the.
I don't think it would have been her if it was. There was so many
She
other
had her
guys.
shot back in 2020.
It definitely
and
would
She
not
was
have
the
been
first
hard.
one out in the
Tulsi-
primaries in 2020.
Tulsi
Tulsi
sunk her
literally-
instantly.
Yeah.
Tulsi saw her.
If they really wanted someone who could win, but the problem is they want a puppet in my mind. Like it was her. You put her and RFK on a ticket and actually let them run on what they want to run on. They actually have a shot of beating Trump.
who
I
like
feel.
Tulsi?
Tulsi and like RFK.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd
They
been a hard ticket to
literally
beat. That would have been.
that would have
that'd been
actually had a
crazier
shot
election.
of beating Trump in my mind, but they want a puppet. The whoever's in charge of the Democratic Party, they clearly just want someone
they
that
went
they
as
can
far
control.
as calling Tulsi a Russian.
Oh yeah, and they
Yeah,
put her on
and
that.
she's
what
literally
was
a
that list that
veteran
they
who
put her on?
They
served
put her on
overseas
terrorist
twice.
list.
Terrorist
Terrorist
list, yeah.
watch list.
Yeah.
It's like, are you joking? Like
Right.
really?
She's like
you're,
inactive.
You're taking your like golden child and just completely ripping her down. She's a woman. She's of color. She has fought in the war. Like, how many more like check boxes do you need her to hit to realize like if these are all the things that you're saying that are like your top priority, and then you pretty much just shunned her away and literally just tried to rip her down? Like, and the main reason is when she took down Harris, when she destroyed Harris in 2020, that's when all of a sudden she was put on the shit list.
Yeah.
And then throughout the last couple of years, I was really hoping, and for me, like I've listened to JD Vance a little bit. I listened to the podcast with Rogan. I've gotten to know him a little bit better. Listen to that. I do want to listen to more of his stuff now. But I thought if Trump picked Tulsi to be his VP, I was like, well, she'll be the president right after him because she will snag a huge section of the left, which I think was already shown yesterday with her being part of the campaign. Her RFK, like, there's a reason why he won the way he did. I mean, like everyone was worried it's going to take a week to find out. I'm like, I don't think so. I think we're going to find out tonight or tomorrow morning. And
I said that it was going to take a week because I was like,
I was so
2020 was gonna
confident
happen
it was going to
again.
be a landslide. This is.
I'm happy
I
it went
wasn't
the way it
even.
went.
I
Just, like,
voted
just
for
to be
him
able to
last
quit.
time, and I like when I did it. I told my wife,
Yeah.
like, don't tell anybody I just did that. Like I was like that uncomfortable with voting for him in 2020. Still, and this time I'm kind of like. With that coalition, if he really does let RFK go after health, because I don't think we have an insurance issue, we have a health issue. We
1000%
literally are
do.
poisoning our entire nation right now by letting people eat the food that we're promoting. That's the real problem. And so many people are sick that it's expensive to get taken care
I
of.
wouldn't say let people make their choices. What
No,
they
I'm not
want, but
saying
educate them.
You have the freedom to have.
No, but see,
yeah.
but dude, it's so tough to find like healthy food when you're around. I mean, like you can do it, but you have
No,
to
the
actively
food
because
industry just has so much control
Yeah,
over
yeah,
so
no.
much. It's crazy.
No,
that's
absolutely.
part of the other problem is like the corruption with the agencies that are supposed to regulate these
Yeah, the
industries.
food
It's like
pyramid
there's
was a
that
giant
revolving
scam.
door.
Well, then you got the pharmaceutical industry right along with it too, is because they want to feed you a pill.
Yeah.
Here, instead of like, how about address your health before figuring out like, no, you just need to take this. Well, now this is happening. We'll take this to counter this with this, and it's like,
Yep.
I got a question for you. You seem like you're in the rabbit hole a little bit, but it's a fun question to ask. So all the people that helped, define the cigarette industry, all the scientists
Yeah.
and all the
Yeah.
They
information.
all
There you
own
go.
the food industry now.
Okay, I was just curious
Oh,
where
yeah.
they all went.
Yeah,
I started
That's the
learning-
cool thing with the internet and right now and people like RFK that makes me super hopeful that like this, as much as I was saying like I'm not focused on the bigger picture stuff, like at least I'm hearing stuff from people in politics right now that it's actually might change some individuals.
Yeah.
Like let enough people realize and make the choice to stop eating seed oils.
Right.
To
yeah.
stop like that information's coming out. And because I think Elon bought Twitter and now there's a check on them, just like when YouTube was even censoring the Rogan Trump podcast.
I love how I call that out too.
It never showed it as trending. It stopped growing. And then as soon as he posted it on X and Elon shared it on X, it's gotten more views on, and nobody's on Twitter. Nobody's on X. I don't know anybody that really uses, and it's still getting more views on there than the thing that everybody has and uses every day.
Yeah.
And most people don't use it actively. I only use it now because of that. Like when Tucker Carlson did his interview with Putin, like that got 100 million views like almost immediately. The fact that there's a platform that isn't going to censor stuff and going to let people watch it and share it is putting a check on. And YouTube immediately had to, the day after the Rogan podcast posted, because I follow him so much. I was at my son's soccer game the night that he posted it because he said it was coming out that Friday.
Yeah.
And another episode came up and I'm like, oh, maybe they meant they're just going to record it on Friday and it'll come out like Monday. And while I'm sitting at the soccer game, an alert pops up, YouTube alert, that they were smart. They posted it on YouTube first before they put it on Spotify because they wanted to see what YouTube was going to do with it.
I see.
And they posted it like that night. So I started watching it when it was only at like 100,000 views before most people had even clicked on it. And it came up as an alert. The next morning I go to look at it and I couldn't find it by searching Joe Rogan. So then I put Joe Rogan Trump and I found it and saw how many millions of views it was at. By later that day, you could literally search, and I did it on 4 different phones because I was like, what the hell's going on? You could search Joe Rogan Trump and you could not find the video. It was clips. It was people's opinions about it. It was like scroll.
Like,
you had to go click on Joe Rogan's channel and then even scroll down and find it under other ones that were way more controversial in order to even find it. And it's like, what is YouTube doing? They're like literally trying to prevent people from seeing this, and it never even popped up as trending.
It's got to be pressure from outside. That's what Twitter files proved.
Well, Alphabet's one of the biggest donors to the Kamala campaign. Mm-hmm. So it's like, they're definitely weighing in on it. But the fact that they were able to then take it and put it on X and show how many people wanted to see it, all of a sudden by later that day, once Rogan posted all over his socials that it was being censored by YouTube, now it pops up as like the top thing when you search the word Joe Rogan. So they fixed it because there was a platform to put pressure on them.
Yeah. That's kind of what happens. Like whenever there's alternatives, it's like economics and business with competition drives quality up, That's sometimes what happens with that.
Yeah, so I think Elon Musk saved free speech in this country and maybe in the world by buying X. I think that was maybe one of the more important things that's happened.
It is the most important amendment.
Well, I was going to say, like, what's been kind of a little sad, but I get it. It's Elon. Like, when I first started hearing about Elon, he seemed like he was very passionate about space exploration, traveling outside, improving humanity as a whole. Like, okay, there's that effort that he's putting into improving mankind as a whole, space exploration. And that the fact that he started to see that there was this almost like cancerous part of our society that he had to take that attention to come here and kind of do his magic. And because I feel like Elon is a builder, problem solver, whatever, but on a massive scale.
He's everything like, from the 50,000-foot views.
Exactly.
Yeah, he's looking at everything from a different angle. And
for him to see like that there was this need and that this direction that society was taking, that he had to come in. And I mean, he said himself,
I think the more interesting person in that situation to me is not even him, it's his mother. Like you should listen to his mom talk about this whole situation. I mean, she's an immigrant into this country, and she was Democratic, and she flipped. And look that up. Listen to her.
I don't know. There was tons of people in this election where people that I thought never would have voted for him ever, and by the time it came along to it, they almost all voted for him. And they all took their different paths of getting there, either it being like the RFK coming on board and stuff like that. But still, at the same time, it kind of got to the point where it's like with all the information that was coming out, it's like that's kind of the only direction I think I can vote.
Yeah, if RFK would have continued his campaign, I think we would have saw a much different turnout last night. I think he would have gotten millions of votes, and the 6, 7, 8 million that Trump's going to win by, which is crazy.
Well, look at the 3
A
states
big
that wouldn't
chunk
take
of
him
that
off
would
the
have been
ballot.
for RFK.
Look at the 3 states that wouldn't take him off the ballot after
Still got a ton of votes there,
he
huh?
fought. Yeah, that was such the weirdest thing. Then they wouldn't take him off, and he still got votes. Like it was.
It was just that's the like conspiracy part of me is like, man, they set up everything possible to make sure he won. Like this feels like
Oh,
we're
to
being
make
set
sure
up.
he won?
Yeah,
I don't think
there
that-
were so
I
many
don't think
decisions
they're
made
thinking
that like to
clearly.
me seemed like it made it obvious to me that like they didn't want her to
Yeah,
win.
but at the same time,
Really?
they also thought at the same time that Hillary was going to crush him in a landslide.
I don't know. I didn't feel that. I felt like the whole.
I'm
TikTok
curious. I'm
world
actually
and
like,
everything.
I mean, to me, it seems so odd. Like I don't know. Just
So who's like who would be there? Because I thought the opposite. I thought they did everything to try to keep him from getting
I
into
think
the
that's
White
what
House.
they were trying to put the impression out
If
on.
you knew who they
Picking
was,
the
we wouldn't be
most
here.
disliked vice president in history, the person that couldn't make it out of the first round of primaries in 2020. And I mean, that would be your last
Okay.
choice if you
Yeah.
wanted to win, right?
Well, or it's this: you're pressuring someone to drop out of the race, and he finally gets to the point realizing that he's going to get screwed and get pushed out of this race because of one debate. So he went, okay, watch this. I'm going to step down.
I heard that one
Harris is going to take my position and do that publicly.
Yeah.
And like, how are you going to not back the president at the time? He's your number one guy.
You can't
So
break the
it's
party.
like he almost force fed her down their throats. Like, here, good luck winning now. Have fun.
Who was it that said that? Because it was on Rogan's podcast.
it
Right?
was-
Somebody had that perspective.
I forget who, but when I heard it, I was like, that makes sense. Even when he threw the
Kinda.
MAGA, hat
Oh,
on.
that's true.
Like,
Yeah.
Everybody's convinced he voted for Trump yesterday. Everyone is
Nah,
convinced that Joe
whatever.
You know how
Biden.
funny
Then
that
he's
would be,
wearing
like, on the-
red at
on-
the
on
election
the way
polls.
out, just like
I'm
a
just saying
screenshot
that.
of his voting.
I mean, obviously,
You're right.
Obviously, I'm
It's just
gaslighting, but
the skeptical side of me and thinking that like, okay, these people are powerful people and they're probably always thinking steps ahead.
Yeah.
And I like to think that maybe they're just that dumb, but the skeptical part of me thinks maybe they're not. And if you look at the stock market right now, if you pull up a chart,
It's
of
ballistic
the
today.
S&P or NASDAQ or anything, and zoom out and looking at Bitcoin over the years and looking at the chart and realizing that like if you zoom out, you can see what's really happening. If you zoom out on the stock market and stuff, like, and just everything else that's going on economically, the wars around the world, the chart of the stock market right now is like, it looks like Bitcoin on crack. Like if you're looking at Bitcoin in a 1 or 2 year window, it's just like the 2008 crash looks like nothing happened. That's how big the chart is right now. That's how big everything's up inflated. We've got $37 trillion in debt.
That's
You got
since
these
2008?
wars going on. Yeah. And we haven't had a big real correction since then. And it's like,
we're due.
if you know that that's coming or should be coming, who do you want in office? Your
I
guy
see.
or the other guy that you're telling the world he's going to destroy everything?
It can always backfire though, because he manages way
Yeah,
through
well,
it.
I'm hoping Elon can clean house enough because that's who I think that's going to make a big deal. If you can actually make the government more efficient and get rid of a bunch of BS, like he was saying, the Gulliver's Travel thing, all the strings holding everything down from happening and not being able to get stuff done. The fact that they can build a rocket faster than they can get it approved to launch it, which just is like a signature going from one desk to another. Like he just built an AI facility, like the biggest smart AI computer in the world.
Yeah.
And if you listen to the CEO of NVIDIA talk about it, and this is the CEO of NVIDIA, widely regarded as like one of the most gangster CEOs of any company out there right now. NVIDIA is doing some crazy stuff if you look at him. He talks about Elon Musk like, man, he's on a different level. They built their supercomputer AI facility using NVIDIA's chips in like 19 days. He said it normally takes 3 years to make one of those facilities. And Elon did it in 19 days.
I wonder what he like. How does he operate? He wakes up in the morning. How does he go about these things? Like, is it just?
I don't know.
He looks at
Does he
everything in
sleep?
substance. He doesn't look at anything for what it is. Like
Like he goes down to what first principles.
Yeah.
Like, all right, so what's it going to take? They said the rocket thing was going to be impossible. Now he's putting rockets into space at like 28 times cheaper than what NASA could do it for, or some crazy number that just keeps growing. The boring tunnels. Did you do the tunnels at Siemens?
Yeah.
I've seen plenty
Dude,
of videos.
how
about
have you done it yet?
that. No.
You got to do it. It's insane. And they're building those all under the Vegas Strip right now. Like it's gonna destroy taxis and Ubers in this town once it actually goes live everywhere. It's already connected to Resort World. So if you stayed at Resort World or you came here from SEMA, you can just get in a Tesla, it takes you to the tunnel. You're there. You don't got to pay for parking. And if you're a guest of the hotel, it's free. And then they're connecting it right now to the Wynn and I think 2 or 3 other casinos.
Westgate.
Then it's going to go all the way to the airport where you're going to, for $10, you're going to be able to fill a car full of people and luggage and just go straight from your hotel to the airport.
Wow.
Like game changing. Oh, I'm being told we need to wrap this up. We probably talked too much about politics already anyways, but this has been great. We're going to do this again.
No, we're never going to do this again. I appreciate you guys coming down. Thank you for the surprise guest. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
This has been a hell of a
We're
conversation.
kind of connected at the hip sometimes.
No, that's amazing. No, I didn't even know either of you guys were coming. And I'm like, you guys showed up. I was like, oh, sweet.
Which shows you how much you listened to me.
Well,
earlier
you
in the
said
day.
he might be coming.
No, definitely didn't. Named a time and everything.
I didn't hear that part. So
Like
I
said,
definitely
how
don't
much you
listen to
listen.
you.
I know.
I
know this.
Thank you,
Definitely
guys.
When it comes to information, I get off.
Sybil's.
And you just
Siblings,
got
there you
a
go.
first out of us. We've definitely never mentioned politics on here. So
Oh, really?
yeah.
No.
So
Well,
Dude, what, like, just real quick, I've always heard growing up, you don't talk about religion, you don't talk about politics. And I, to me, I'm like, you can't just have an open mind.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
that's the only thing is just have an open
Yeah.
mind and be accepting of others' perspectives
Yeah.
and like and seek to understand first and then be understood.
Yeah.
Go with it. Then like you can talk.
here's the
about
thing.
stuff.
Like I got good friends who are like, I don't have many that are like openly pro Kamala, but I have 1 or 2 that I've been talking to, and like
Yeah.
we can still have a civil conversation. Like I don't like dislike somebody because they got a different point of view than me politically.
Right.
I try to avoid talking about it at all costs anymore nowadays, just because of the climate. But I don't know. This was a good day to talk about it because this morning, I got up, took my kids to school. I was telling them this earlier. On their drive to school, I was like playing like Lee Greenwood and like, all right. I went and stopped at Lowe's to get a flagpole because I got to spot the amount of flag. I just haven't on my house ever. And I'm like, I'm a pretty patriotic person. But the last couple of years, the environment of politics and stuff, I just haven't done anything like that. I'm like, I'm hanging a flag up today. Like this felt like a win for freedom because I felt like this was
the election happening the way it did. I'm happy that it was a decision. Either way it would have went. It was last night, or if anything, worst case would have been this morning. Not it took us a week to find out who our damn president was.
I wanted it to be decided last night. Like let's be
Let's get on
over
with
with
our
it.
life.
Yeah, exactly. Get on with life. And then when it comes down to politics wise, there are people that you can have conversations with it and without it. And like it just respect that line. It is what it is. And for me, when it comes down to business wise, I've had people come in and ask for like Trump stickers. I've had people ask for Clinton stickers. Will you make those? I'm like, is your money green? Yes. I mean, whatever you want. I don't. It's not going to alter what I do for you. If I have a service that I can get done for you, I'm going to offer you my services. Do it to the best of my abilities. I'm not going to not do it. Like, oh, you want a Trump sticker? Yeah, we don't do that here. Like, no, I'm pretty sure your money spends just the same. Just like on the other side, it spends just the same. It doesn't matter to me. You want me to do something for you? I'll get it done for you. Where if you want to have a conversation on personal time, sure, why not? I'm completely fine with it. As long as you're willing to have an open conversation, that's all I care about.
And like I think what one of the biggest problems with being able to talk with people is that mainstream media has done an incredible job of reminding people about the differences, not the commonalities. And maybe a good way to end the topic is ultimately we're all wanting the same thing. We all want peace. We all want prosperity. We all want to secure a positive future for our families and for our kids and their kids moving forward. Sometimes it's, there's a little bit of differences in how we get that done. But as long as people can stay rooted in that we have the same mission objective, I think we're going to be okay. And as long as these conversations can keep being had, we're going to be okay.
Yes.
So,
couldn't agree more.
Definitely.
Amen.
Yeah, that's why to me the like freedom of speech thing was the biggest thing. Like we can't have a conversation if one side's being silenced. So that was like a huge one for me.
Well, I think that's probably a perfect spot to wrap this up. Again, thank you guys for coming on. Look forward to doing this again multiple times over, especially with the fact that now we have the facility. And then beyond that, actually get some content of us actually putting some film up and going over tips, techniques, and stuff like that. Help grow our industry and keep going upward. So Thank you guys.
Well, absolutely.
Appreciate the
Thank you guys
opportunity.
for doing this and then having us as part of the guests, man. Like this is something that you guys are doing for the industry that's going to help grow it. And you guys are, everybody has their role and their magic touch. I would say, it's different flavors, but it's pushing that bubble upwards. And you guys are very instrumental. You guys are probably going to go down as one of the most, I would say, influential figures, looking back at the careers that you guys are currently building. And, much congratulations to that and continued success.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I really do.
You want to give them an outro?
Yeah,
Texas
we need-
Squeegee outro.
Yeah, we need some kind of Texas Squeegee out.
Absolutely.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are concluding this episode of Born to Tint podcast. Josh Miller, Ricky Miller, David Karle, and none other than the glass tinting films like a tinter-breeding, hell-raising, trailblazing, most tint-defined figure, the Texas Squeegee. Wrapping it up. See you guys on the next one. Squeegee that.